Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Wednesday, April 16th, and the past 24 hours have been rather wild for the equity markets. I basically say that every single day because we have like 17,000 different headlines every single day. The biggest one right now is about Nvidia, which we'll get into, but we got a bunch of stuff from Japan. We got a bunch of stuff from China. And we do have some progress on the trade negotiations to some extent. That is kind of bullish, but based on the Nvidia news that we got yesterday, if you were on the market close with me, we reacted to that in real time. And it was rough. It was rough news. I think it's news that inevitably is not going to be the death of Nvidia, but as of last night, it was enough to take Nvidia down 7%. So we're going to get started with that, discuss that, see the implications of it, and we'll keep going from there. We also have Scott Bessent, who did a long interview on Yahoo Finance yesterday. He actually admitted some pretty interesting things that we'll take a look at and try to see if there's any implications on all the stuff he said in terms of what it means for volatility. Again, his big quote 2 days ago was that he thinks volatility has peaked, or the VIX has peaked, which is nice because that means maybe some less volatility. But given all the headlines, given the Nvidia headline, there's plenty of volatility to go around to everybody. Here in the pre-markets, not really changing from yesterday. 6.8% down on Nvidia, 104.55. Either Nvidia opens up today and the bottom blows out and we get to below 100, right? And it happens and we get back there, and the rest of the market probably is kind of stable. This is kind of an Nvidia thing, so that might seem like a more specific Nvidia decline, and this would obviously be bad for the entire market, but it would uniquely be hurting Nvidia. Or people step in, they say this is stupid, it's not that big of a deal, they buy the dip, and maybe we have some resemblance of green, if not a little bit less red than we're seeing right now. In about 40 minutes, we'll see how this all plays out. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. For real, Michael, Broccoli. Is it Broccoli's birthday? Did Broccoli say it's his birthday? It is Broccoli Bob's birthday. Okay, here we go. Broccoli Bob, happy freaking birthday to you, brother. This guy has been watching the channel for, I think, at least 2 years, right? I think he's been here since either early 2023 or late 2022. So shout out to Broccoli Bob. Happy birthday to you, brother. Thank you for being here. And is it too much to ask for a green close? Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully we can get a green close on your birthday. Happy birthday to you, man. Thank you for spending your time and being here, part of the show today. Brent, Gary, June, Trey, stock market news. What's up? I fully broke my phone last night and it cracked. Well, join the club, man. You know, I broke this when I went to the Robinhood event, Evan. So yeah, it's my phone's been cracked as well. It is what it is. We're gonna have to pay $5,000 for a new iPhone anyway, so might as well get used to it. Trey, what's up? Daniel, Magusto, Marie, thank you all for being here. Broccoli says been here for 84 years. He's been here for a long time. I love it. Thank you, man, for being here. Misha, Brett, what's up? Uzi, Michael, Christopher, Frosty, Stags, P. Morton, I'm Beneficial, Marcus, Chris James. Thank you all for being here once again. Kind of a crazy 2025, right? I was talking about this yesterday in the market close, but who would have thought 2025 would go like this? And it's going like this. It is exciting to say the least. You can interpret exciting as a positive or negative term here, but you got to admit, it is exciting. Every single freaking day, there's a new headline, multiple new headlines, because Trump also goes live every single day. I think he'll be live again later in the day to talk about whatever he wants to talk about. And we got to figure it out. We got to figure out how to navigate everything that's going on in this market. All right, let's get started. Sebastian, Kevin, Jasmine, Subham, Daniel, thank you all for being here today. All right, so NVIDIA, I think we'll get started with them. Headline news, if you have not heard about it, the reason NVIDIA is down 7% right now is because we are banning them from selling one of their chips, which is one of their crappier chips, but still an important part of chips that make up at least $5.5 billion of revenue to China. That is the current headline right now. So late yesterday night, or really around like 5 p.m., NVIDIA disclosed a new form with the SEC to investors before their earnings. They have their earnings in about a month. And they said, hey, the United States just informed us that for national security reasons, the H20 chip that we designed specifically to deal with national security, aka it's not as good as Blackwell, Hopper, Rubin, et cetera, but it's still a decent chip that Chinese companies like ByteDance, Tencent, et cetera can use, that's banned. Now, I hesitate to use the word banned. It's like indefinitely banned until they get a new license. I don't even know what that means. And from the people I've talked to, no one knows what that means. It's just like a vague thing that everyone is trying to figure out. but apparently Nvidia is not able to sell until they meet some qualifications. But what matters for Q1 and for investors is that they're going to take a $5.5 billion charge. So I think we were expecting about $44 billion of revenue. We can now expect close to $39 billion of revenue, about 15% to 17%. Q1 is going to take a hit in terms of what's going to look like for their Q1 fiscal 2026 earnings. Yeah, not good. Yes, my covered calls are safe, which is nice, but obviously when the stock falls 7%, it sucks for everybody. So I mean, covered calls have been working this year. They're probably going to keep working until this volatility gets a little bit of reprieve. But until then, we are going to see the downfall right here of a lot of different names. As soon as Nvidia fell, I mean, the S&P obviously took a hit. Nvidia, I believe, is 5% of the S&P. So when 5% of the S&P gets hit, 7%, the S&P will fall 1%. So you're seeing right here, S&P fell 1/3% yesterday. It's down about 1% in the pre-markets. I guess that's the first question I'll ask you guys. Who thinks that this dip gets bought, continues to? Gut feeling is that we have a little bit more pain to go. I would be happy if we don't, but Nvidia gets bought or continues to fall today? Or do people finally come in and say, hey, we want to buy the dip? I don't know. I really don't. I feel like it's 50-50. I feel like it's really 50-50 right here. Like this news is not good. And the reason I say this could fall even further is because, like, what if this happens in Q2 and Q3 and Q4? Then all the analyst expectations around, I think it's close to like $175 billion of revenue. That has to go down by the tune of what? 20 billion. And that means that's going to change EPS estimates. That's going to change PE multiples. It's going to change price to sales update. Like there's so many different metrics that start to get altered if we take down revenue estimates by about 15-17% if we can't sell into China. Or is this just a negotiating chip for the United States? And that is not a horrible theory where the United States is basically saying, hey, we are willing to negotiate with you all. And the reason we're willing to negotiate with you all is because we want, different trade concessions from China. And one of the things we're willing to give up to you is the Nvidia chips, aka we're going to allow Nvidia to sell our H20 chips into China if China is able to give us a better deal. I mean, this could also be Nvidia being used as a pawn in the broader trade war that's playing out right now. Or this could be just something that's, continuously hurting Nvidia. What worries me is that a lot of people have already had their Nvidia dip. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Nvidia hit 85 the other day, and a lot of people have been buying the dip throughout the entire year, including myself. So the reason this is gut-wrenching is because if you've been buying the dip, you are now being asked to continuously buy the dip. And at some point, people just get tired of it, right? Even though theoretically, if this is going to be the year where we have to buy the dip on Nvidia, and then 2026, 2027, we actually see the gains, it is what it is. You just get some of those years as an investor, but it is definitely annoying for a lot of the people that believe in this story, really have no reason to not believe in the story, especially if they've done a lot of the fundamental due diligence and then they take the risk with their capital. And then they get these types of announcements where Nvidia is not able to sell to China. And what's uniquely upsetting about it is because the H20 was designed to sell into China because it's not as powerful as the GB200. Also, another point on this, and this was the best take I've seen in the context of what's going on with Nvidia and why I think this policy kind of is stupid. So this is from Dylan Patel. He runs SemiAnalysis, which is a semiconductor consulting firm, and he's very well known in the semiconductor industry. He says Huawei's new AI server is insanely good. People need to reset their priors. This is why banning H20 without banning tools and subcomponents is idiotic, because Huawei is not far behind the H20. This administration needs to act fast to slow down Huawei's ramp, or the H20 ban will be useless. I think that's the best take from what I've seen so far. Either it's a play from Trump to negotiate and then eventually give a concession that, hey, Nvidia can sell into China if China gives some concessions, or it's just stupidity. Because he's right. I mean, if Huawei has the tooling to be able to eventually develop a chip that is as good as the H20, and you don't ban the tools and the raw materials and the subcomponents from the import-export controls that go into the Huawei servers, I mean, this is just a dream for China. China gets to say, okay, we don't need Nvidia. Huawei gets to build it internally, just like Chinese companies innovated with DeepSeek, which shocked the entire world and definitely reset expectations for Nvidia. If we allow China to just keep innovating and Nvidia doesn't get the benefit of those profits because someone's inevitably going to create that technology, then obviously that's not a good thing for national security either. So again, either this is a negotiation bargaining tool from the Trump administration. 60% of you believe the Nvidia dip will keep going down today, or this is just one of the worst moves that the administration could make. And the thing is, I don't only blame the Trump administration, because Biden was planning to do this as well. So Democrat or Republican, their priority is, hey, China shouldn't be as advanced in AI. And I think whatever administration it would have been, this could have been a key way that they stop China from getting as strong as they think they can get in AI. But apparently this is not the right way to do it if you look at some of the experts, and you have to do a lot more things if you don't want China to be able to get a chip. So you can't just ban the GPUs themselves. You have to ban everything else, which is obviously very hard, which begs the question that maybe you don't ban the GPUs. You just try to get better and maybe not break up Google and Meta so they can use the chips to keep innovating to be better than Alibaba and DeepSeek. But this is the current route that we are in when it comes to the AI wars. So it's a really unique situation. Yeah, the Huawei will obviously be propped up by the Chinese government, especially if they get more demand. I believe the number was 15 billion worth of chips was ordered by ByteDance for 2025. And I think that could be one of the orders that's affected right now, because the H20 chips, again, won't be able to be sold indefinitely until this ban is taken away. So that's what we got in the context of NVIDIA. Now, all the semis, if you own any of the semis, I mean, GG's for today. Marvell's down 4%, Dell's down 3%, Micron's down 4%, Intel's down 2%, SMCI's down 4%, AMD's down 7%. AMD getting hit even worse than Nvidia. Broadcom down 4%. All of them come back to Nvidia. So if you own any of the semis, you're obviously being affected by this. There's no way you can own a semi and not be affected by the headline on Nvidia, which means I'd rather just own Nvidia, because all of them are affected by Nvidia. So any semiconductor stock you own right now, it's going to get hit. TSM, by the way, let's talk about them real quick. We had a nasty headline on TSM this morning. That's another reason why TSM is down. TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor, is reportedly set to raise prices for chips from its U.S. factory in Arizona, the one Trump was claiming was such a great win for American innovation, by 30%. The reason is because of tariffs, raw materials, import costs. They are passing on the cost to their consumers, aka the hyperscalers that buy those chips, by about 30%. That's not good. That's like really not good at all. So it's like, this is just stupid, right? Like this is what we, like everyone said, all right, logically, if we have tariffs, then we're going to have more expensive prices on consumers. And even if you and I are not literally buying the chips, the companies that buy the chips from TSM or buy the part of the supply chain that is required to make the chips affects us at the end of the day as consumers. Yeah, those prices are going to go up. And is it because it costs more to build there? Correct. Now, that's one of the things. In Arizona, it costs a lot more to build than in Taiwan because the cost of labor is higher. But the tariffs make that a lot worse, especially when the tariffs are uniquely affecting the raw materials that are going into the chips that Taiwan is building in Arizona. So although TSMC is investing $100 billion, they announced that in January, into the United States. Although Nvidia has said they're going to be investing $500 billion over the next 4 years. Although Trump tweeted yesterday that he was happy that Nvidia is finally investing in the United States and that this is all because of the tariffs. It's a big win for America. Still, this export control gets announced yesterday, which screws over Nvidia, screws over all the semis, and then obviously TSM, being affected by that tariff hike, is now raising their prices by about 30%, which that's not good for inflation. And we're making a lot of progress on inflation. And TSM is the first company to kind of announce this tariff hike. If we see more companies do it in Q1, obviously that's not going to be the best thing. So yeah, this sucks. Now, granted, I do think there's a world where this dip is bought, and it wouldn't surprise me today if people are like, you know what, this is a one-time charge. It's a negotiating tactic. It's not that serious. Eventually, Trump will walk this back. Trump has walked back a lot of things. I mean, talk about the art of the deal. There's more like the art of the walk back throughout the entire year. It's like every single other day, there's a way that we kind of see him walking back stuff, and then the stock market reacts to it and goes up. Some people are joking that Trump's going to wait until the S&P 500 goes back to 4,000, and then he'll like walk back everything and we'll rally. But it's just the nature of this market right now. And as investors, we kind of have to live and deal with it. Nvidia right here down about 6.7%. Broadcom down 3%. And AMD right here down about 6.9% currently right now. Now, gold, people are afraid of stocks. People are afraid of bonds. What they are not afraid of is freaking gold. 3,300 an ounce on gold. Officially, this happened last night. You can see it right here, up 2.72% of the day. Gold year to date is up 27%. I mean, like it's unbelievable. I did not think gold would be outperforming everything, including some of these amazing tech companies, but that's what's happening right now. And it goes to show that people are afraid. People feel that they don't want to even think about being in something that requires any risk, because and you can't blame them in this administration. There's so many moving parts that affects the nature of risk calculus. The 30-year, by the way, ticking up just a little bit, along with the 10-year right here. Nothing crazy, but a little bit of a tick higher. That it behooves you to be like, you know what, the safest thing in the world might be gold. And as a result, people are choosing to buy gold versus Nvidia. Gold is outperforming Bitcoin. That is correct. China might be buying gold as well. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things that's playing out right here that is stopping capital from flowing into equities, but rather flowing into something that might be a safe haven like gold. Jerome Powell speaks today. I think you're right. When does he speak? Let me find. And where is he speaking? You are right. He is speaking today. I think it's at some conference. Yeah, I will make sure to try to stream it live. I think it's going to be like at 11 a.m. today. Yeah, I believe so. All right, we'll see what Jerome Powell has to say today. And if there's anything interesting in terms of how he's navigating all this stuff. 1:15, 1:30 at Atlanta. Okay, cool. All right. So we'll listen to see what he had. 1:30. All right. All right, we will listen to Jerome. Yeah, this gold ring is worth more now. I was joking on Sunday. The Robinhood card is like, it's up like literally 40% in a year. So that Robinhood gold card that I got in February of 2024, it's gonna be around for a while. I guess I should just hold it forever, and maybe that'll be worth more than my Robinhood stock. So there you go. Speaking of Nvidia, we got a bunch of clips from Bessent yesterday. Let's transition to him. Here's what he said about Nvidia to Yahoo Finance.
Yeah. How important was it to get news that Nvidia is going to spend $500 billion here to make AI supercomputers?
Nvidia, I believe, has 98%, which is incredible, of the upper end chip market. And I think that for Nvidia to bring this home is very important. And one of the greatest security concerns for global economy is the number of chips made on the island of Taiwan. To have one of the most important components made in one place is not great risk management. But you could say that about anything. Like you wouldn't want anything. You wouldn't want to source just one thing from one place, especially when the whole world runs on it. I mean, imagine that if Abu Dhabi were the only place in the world that pumped oil, right? That it's the equivalent.
Okay, so you got Bessent basically saying, hey, we need to, care about Nvidia from a national security perspective. Maybe that's obviously influencing the China ban, but for Nvidia investors, that's not the best thing in the world. Now, in terms of China themselves, here's what Bessent said yesterday about China, and then we have some new updates this morning in terms of what's going on with China and the Chinese tariffs.
Have you talked to your counterpart in China?
We did an introductory call a couple of months ago. We haven't spoken since. I'm not sure who from PRC will be. Next week is a big week in Washington. It's the International Monetary Fund World Bank Week. So I know that People's Republic will send someone from finance, probably the PBOC, People's Bank of China governor. So they will be here. I may bump into them. We don't have anything scheduled.
How much
I may bump into them. These guys have no deal with the Chinese yet. I may bump into them. Like, come on, bro. There is no freaking deal or even beginning of a deal with the Chinese government. And we kind of have confirmation of that based on what China said today. So China said 4 things this morning in regards to what's going on with the United States. Number one, they said, we are aware that certain goods have been tariffed by 245% by the United States. Some of you guys might have seen this headline. I wouldn't freak out too much about that. It's not a universal 245% tariff, but certain products like syringes, for example, I don't know why they pick syringes, but syringes like the ones they use in a hospital, those are tariffed up to 245%. So China confirmed that they know that the United States raised the tariff rate from 145 to 245 on certain products. They then said we are ignoring the numbers game from the US, aka they're saying we don't give a shit. 145, 245, 545, like we don't care anymore. It doesn't matter. Then they said we are prepared to fight until the end. And then the final thing they said, which I thought was relatively bullish, is we are ready to talk if Trump shows respect and cooperates with us. And then they also added if he adds a point of contact, aka someone who is going to be responsible for the majority of the negotiations, then we are ready to talk with them, which was encouraging. Like at least they said, hey, we want to talk. We just need Trump to show some respect. Now, Trump, given his ego, he's going to hear that and say, screw you. I don't need to show respect. You need to show respect. And so it's just going to keep going back and forth, which is why I don't think we're anywhere close to a deal. You just heard Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent say that I might bump into them, aka there's nothing there is scheduled on the docket. And so in terms of China, I mean, there's no progress is what I'm trying to say. There's nothing going on right now. And we can only take what the administration tells us, and what they're telling us right now is that they want China to call first. They want China to make the first action. They want China to capitulate. What if China says we don't want to capitulate anytime soon? This was another thing Trump said yesterday that we talked about on the close, but I think it's important to bring up right here. Trump said, quote, we may want countries to choose between us or China. So sure, but countries have a pretty hard choice, because do they pick the U.S. consumer or do they pick China's labor? Now, China's labor is necessary for products to be cheap, but you need the U.S. consumer who has the propensity to actually spend. I talked about this yesterday as well, but apparently 60% of the Coachella tickets, the big music festival in California, were financed via buy now, pay later, which is insanity. Only the American consumer would do a buy now, pay later on Coachella tickets. But like that shows you how much money the United States consumer is willing to spend, even if they don't have that money, because they think they'll eventually pay it off. So I don't think there's a world in which someone can pick between the United States or China, because the United States will never have the cost of goods to be able to create all the different products that we use on our day-to-day life. If you look around your room, probably 90% of the things that are in your room are from China in some capacity. But also countries need someone to sell the products to, and the only person or the only group of people that are reasonably going to buy all the useless stuff that we buy is the United States consumer. So from that perspective, I don't think someone can pick, or countries can pick between the US and China. They're going to have to pick between, but like Vietnam needs some level of Chinese manufacturing to help sell their products into America. If you pick one or the other, I think business falls apart. And I think Trump knows this as well. So inevitably there's going to have to be a deal that's done. Now, look, I'm not saying this is just bad for the United States. This is horrible for China as well. We import 5x more than what they import from us. This is not good if we have these types of tariffs on them. But they're also stubborn, right? Like there's two toddlers at this point just fighting with each other. And until one of them finally says, all right, it's time to talk, I think we're going to still be in the midst of this trade war. Here's another quote that Bessent said 2 days ago on Bloomberg. I think we all missed this, but take a look at what he said right here about Jerome Powell.
To the Fed at all about contingency plans, though, if financial stability risks flare up?
Chair Powell and I have breakfast every week, and we discuss a wide range of things. And our staffs are always in contact. We have a markets room; they have a markets room. But and specifically, did we discuss some kind of a break the glass? I think we're a long way from that.
So when was the last time you guys spoke? You had breakfast last week?
We had breakfast last week, and it was an away game. I was over at the Fed.
And no concern so far from the Fed chair on what he saw in the Treasury market?
I think we would have heard from the Fed chair. I think we heard from Governor Collins of Boston on Friday.
Have you?
Chair Powell and I have breakfast every week. I mean, come on, bro. Come on. But like, I guess I missed that in the Bloomberg interview. But like, I didn't know they have breakfast every single freaking week. And so that gives me a little bit more, Nvidia right here, now down 6.6, AMD down 7.5. It gives me a little bit more like, I don't know, peace that, what's his name? Bessent and Powell actually communicate. And if something was really breaking, then Powell would be able to like tell Bessent, and, something could happen in the Treasury markets where things are fixed up quicker than not. But also, I didn't even know they were allowed to talk that much. I thought there's like a wall between the Fed and the administration, and they're not allowed to speak to each other like that, but apparently they are. So the fact that Powell actually gets to talk with Bessent every week means that if something is breaking, I'm sure one of them is going to let them know that something is breaking aggressively, and then hopefully we'll be able to take action. This is why I think it's so good that we have dissent in the administration. But obviously, it's not the best thing in the world until we inevitably get that rate cut. And the Nvidia news last night, doesn't make things that much easier. So that's what we got currently right now. Why is Hood down 4%? Hood is down because the entire market's down. This Nvidia news affects everyone. Nvidia is a big part of the market. Nvidia falls, the Qs fall, Nasdaq falls, S&P falls, Robinhood, which is a proxy on the market, falls. Grab is falling 1%. China's down about 2%. Pre-markets, SMCI is down. And Meta, we'll talk more about their trial today, but we do have some updates from the trial in terms of how Zuckerberg is trying to squirm out of it. Again, my opinion is I don't think we should break up Meta. I think it's just too aggressive right here. But Meta right here down 2%. If we do fall below 500, I get very excited to at least begin a DCA. And we're $10 away from falling below 500. So maybe we get there. But we'll see later here today. Another update on tariffs and rare earth minerals. Trump did announce he is now looking into an investigation to tariff critical mineral imports. Another battle with a different sector when it comes to tariffs.
Kelly, good morning. So now we have to add critical minerals to that growing list of goods that could soon get hit with new tariffs. The president late yesterday signed an executive order that directs his Commerce Department to examine whether imports of processed critical minerals and derivative products threaten U.S. national security. Now, this will be done under what's known as Section 232, and within 180 days, or about 6 months from now, the Commerce Secretary will issue a report that could recommend tariffs on any or all of the imports. The president then will decide how to move forward from there. And Kelly, this investigation does not have to lead to tariffs, but it is the first step in that direction. It's the same tool Trump has already used for his steel, aluminum, and auto tariffs, all in place now. And it marks another significant escalation in this trade war. So take a look at this graphic. This is at least the fifth active to.
Holy crap, guys. We got an update. Hold on. We'll go back to that. AMD. Oh boy, here you go. AMD says U.S. chip export controls apply to their MI308 products. AMD expects these export controls to result in charges of up to $800 million. This came out 5 minutes ago. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. AMD was already down 7%. AMD is now down almost 8%. Wow. Dude. All the semis just getting nuked. This makes sense. I mean, I think a lot of people were wondering yesterday, well, what does this mean for AMD in terms of what they said? Someone said, oh, maybe this increases AMD's demand in China if Nvidia can't sell the H20 chip. But apparently, if the U.S. chip export controls apply to AMD's products, the M1308, then there you go. That's not going to be good for AMD either. Well, AMD now getting hit as well, down about 7.64. Getting hit worse than Nvidia right here. This news is brand new to an AMD. It didn't break last night. Nvidia right here still down 6.7%. S&P officially down 1%. Robinhood down 4.3%. Even Palantir got affected by it. Palantir had a great day yesterday. Now it's down about 2% because this news is affecting the entire market. But yeah, there you go. VIX will probably be up today as the semiconductors continue to face problems with export controls.
232 investigation that's ongoing under this administration. The others include copper and lumber, both of which were launched earlier this term, as well as semiconductors and pharmaceuticals. Those just launched this week. Now, critical minerals had been exempt from the country-specific tariffs, the ones that are now on pause for 90 days. But by doing these sorts of sector-specific investigations, these could lead to tariffs that are often seen as more permanent, less of a negotiating tactic than some of the others. Kelly?
And we were talking a little bit about the time frame, Megan. How long do you expect this to carry out? I guess we'll find out.
We will find out. Up to 6 months, they lay out in the order. The statute gives them even longer. It signals that they want to move quickly here. They do have a lot of balls in the air. All 5 of those investigations have to go through Commerce. With semiconductors and pharmaceuticals announced this week, they did a public comment period of 21 days, just 3 weeks. That allows industry to comment and then move forward. I would imagine those might move forward a little bit faster. Critical minerals, as you guys know, a little bit of a difficult issue here, not something that can easily get moved to the United States in terms of mining, refining, processing, that sort of thing. So they'll have a lot to look at here. I would imagine it's quicker than the 6 months, but we'll have to see.
Again, critical mining, another big industry that is obviously vital to the United States, but Trump is deciding that he wants to launch an entire investigation and probe into how we can navigate the critical mining and refining and sourcing of those materials internally in the United States, which is good. That's fine. But if you're going to do that, like, stock prices are going to react to the fact that, all right, then we're not going to be able to get them from across the world as easily as we did before. Or if we do, we have to pay a massive tariff. And obviously that would hurt. That would hurt the U.S. consumer as well. Apple right here down about 2%, back below 200. Microsoft down 1%. Meta down 2%. Goog's down 2%. Amazon down 1%. Nvidia down 6.5%. And then Tesla right here down 2.3% as we head into tech earnings. MP is up 7%. Yeah. Look, if you're trying to trade MP based on these mineral headlines, I think you got to be just like really, really diligent with it, because there's certain headlines that take it up and then people do the trade. And as of yesterday, it came down 9%. Now it's up 7%. So I personally would not be trading this, just because you have to be like hypersonic quick when it comes to whatever the administration says in terms of their investigation to rare earth and critical minerals. I don't think it's one of those things you go long on, because it's just like, okay, you know, the United States has fully given up on rare earth minerals across the entire world, and it's all going to be sourced with MP. Like, maybe that happens, but if that doesn't, then if you got into it as a trade and it becomes an investment, you might just end up bag holding. So these are some of those things where it's a day trade, maybe a 2-day trade, but it all is contingent on headlines. Because again, Trump might be using this as a navigation, or not a negotiation tactic as well, against China. He might be using Nvidia and AMD and the semiconductors as a negotiation, might be using rare earth minerals as a negotiation. Whatever leverage he can get, I think he's going to try to achieve until they finally have a conversation and hopefully get a deal done. One good piece of news that we got right now is that Trump is going to be speaking to Japan today. So he did post this morning that Japan is coming in to negotiate, and the cost of military support will be negotiated along with tariffs and quote unquote trade fairness. He says, I will attend the meeting along with Treasury and Commerce Secretaries, aka Lutnick and Bessent. Hopefully something can be worked out, which is great for Japan and the USA. So that's good. We're working with Japan. Japan owns $1 trillion of our treasuries, so we need to make sure we don't really piss them off. Japan already said they're not going to sell our treasuries, but you know, if things really hit the fan, who knows? So I expect if we get any deal in the next couple of days, the White House did say yesterday we have over 15 trade offers on the table that they believe are exceptionally good, was their words. I think the first one should be Japan. That would be a good sign of strength. It would be a good sign of like progress with one of our major allies. And if we really do get a good deal, it could set up a template and a framework for further deals in the future. Japan should be the easiest. Japan should be an alley-oop. It should be a layup. It should be the easiest type of deal that we get, because it's Japan. Like we've been friends with them for a long time. So, and we've rebuilt our relationship after, we kind of killed a lot of people in Japan. So it's like, if we can't get a deal with Japan, then I don't know who we're going to get a deal with, but that is hopefully some piece of news that we get during this week after the negotiations go. Here's what Bessent had to say about treasuries. So everyone's thinking China is selling our treasuries, which is what caused yields to go up yesterday, or not yesterday, 2 days ago. Bessent has a little bit of a different theory right here.
Of course, as you know, Mr. Secretary, China is the second largest holder of treasuries, and some would say they could retaliate by selling treasuries given how things are going on the trade front. Does that keep you up at night, the fact that the Chinese could sell treasuries and impact negatively our economy?
I could burn down my house if I had an argument with my spouse, but it's not going to do me very much good. So that if they started selling treasuries, they would they'd have an effect on the price. But more importantly, they accumulate dollars. And what are they going to do with the dollars? So if they sell treasuries, then they would have to buy RMB, and it would strengthen their currency. And they've been doing just the opposite. They've had a weak RMB or yuan, the policy. So it really serves no purpose for them to weaponize treasuries.
Let me just explain what he's saying real quick. So he's saying, hey, if China were to sell treasuries, then that means they would have to be buying yuan. And if they buy yuan, they are not devaluing the currency, because when they buy it, it should be getting stronger. They are strengthening their currency. Now, China, basically for the past decade, has been devaluing the yuan, and that has helped them in a variety of different ways to manipulate their currency. So Bessent's argument is, hey, it doesn't make any sense for them to sell U.S. treasuries, because they would just continuously increase the value of their own currency. That kind of makes sense, but two responses. Number one, what if China doesn't give a you-know-what, and they don't care because they're ready to quote-unquote fight until the end, and then they'll sell U.S. Treasuries just to make sure we have the pain, because they can cause a credit crisis in America even if they increase the value of their yuan. It'd be bad for them, but it'd be really bad for us as well. Number two, what if they're selling bonds and buying gold? And that is a way for them to be able to gain leverage versus strengthening their own currency. So I think the idea that China is not selling bonds at all is like not something we can unilaterally agree with. I think there's merit to that theory, but I think there's also merit to the fact that they might be doing it just to negotiate because of how hard this trade war is becoming for them.
You saw them trying to weaponize treasuries. How does the Treasury Secretary respond?
Look, we have a big toolkit. We do buybacks. The Federal Reserve, I think if treasuries hit a certain level, or if the Federal Reserve believed that a foreign, I won't call them an adversary, but a foreign rival, were weaponizing the U.S. government bond market or attempting to destabilize it for political gain, I am sure that we would do something in conjunction with each other, but we just haven't seen that.
All right, so that's what we got in the context of China. So to summarize for everyone that's just joining, the reason Nvidia and the semis are down is because the United States banned Nvidia from selling their H20 chip to China yesterday. Same thing for AMD. They announced this morning. That's why they're both down about 7%. AMD almost 8%. We're negotiating with Japan today, but we don't have a deal yet. And then finally, in terms of China, China said this morning they want to negotiate with the United States if, quote unquote, Trump shows respect. Bessent says they're not selling their treasuries. I don't know if I necessarily believe him there. He says there's a way to backstop if they are selling treasuries, aka print more money. I don't know if that's going to work this time. And if it does work, it's going to create a lot of unintended consequences. And we have no update from Trump if he officially wants to work with China outside of what he said yesterday, which is, quote unquote, some countries might have to choose between the United States and China, which in my opinion feels unrealistic. I just don't think there's a world in which countries actually can make that choice, which means the global economic system will obviously be at jeopardy if they have to make that choice. Cost of labor goes up or they don't have a consumer to sell goods to, which is why I am still optimistic we will get a deal done. I don't know when. It looks very unlikely right now, but then again, that's how negotiations are. It doesn't look good until we finally get a deal done. But yeah, as of now, we could definitely see another red day across the entire market. But the main reason for that is because of Nvidia. I mean, the Nvidia thing is probably what's going to be hurting a lot of different stocks currently this morning. What's the semi ETF SMH? This one probably is down, what, 3%? 4.6% right now. This one has been one of the worst performing ETFs all year. A lot of stocks and ETFs have gotten hit, but the semi ETF is heavily concentrated towards semiconductors. Year to date, yeah, 17% on an ETF. I mean, you don't want to see those types of violent swings. The S&P year to date is down about 8%. So pretty much double the decline of the S&P 500. Cool. So that's what we got in the context of China, Nvidia, and what's going on with our chips. We do have retail sales that I have not talked about yet. So let's get an update on retail sales because they were good, which is at least a little bit of good news that we have right here as we open up these markets.
Standing by at the CME in Chicago. Rick, about time for these numbers. And I'm going to hit you right at 8:30.
Still don't see revisions, and do keep in mind, we want to see X autos. X autos, 0.5, a little better than anticipated. And even though it is a fraction of 1.4, it is obviously a pretty good number when you consider that it's the best number of the year. We had up 0.6. That was in December. And last month, in revisions coming in, last month was revised double plus from 0.3 to 0.7. And the reason I'm really concentrating on autos is that big ticket purchase item that many may be looking to get ahead of potential tariffs on, maybe a bit reflected in these numbers. Now let's strip out gas in addition to autos, and it's still really strong. Up 0.8, up 0.8. That would be the best number since SEP of last year when it was up 1.2. And that now equals our last look, another revision from 0.5% to up 0.8. And finally, the core number, the control number, input in other data like GDP comes in on the light side, up 0.4. We're expecting a bit more horsepower there, but in the rearview mirror, up 1%, zooms up to 1.3. 1.3 would equal where we were in September. You have to go all the way back to Jan of 23 to find a higher number. So very positive revisions, positive headline number, maybe a little autos, kind of March 26, 25% tariff, get ahead of that to some extent. We see Treasury yields haven't moved much. The yield curve has
So it was a good retail sales number, 1.4 versus 1.2 expected. Not bad. I mean, that's good. Now, granted, the tariffs haven't really gone into effect. So obviously, in the month of April, we're going to see if the tariffs decrease demand when it comes to retail sales. But this was good to see. The auto numbers, as he was talking about as well, were not horrible, which is also not the worst thing in the world. What's going to be really important around the next retail sales number is to what extent do the tariffs not only implicate demand, but also what do they do for inflation? Because tariffs, there's a dual-sided effect here that can be negative. They can decrease demand, which is not good for the economy. They can increase inflation. Now, what should offset the increase in inflation is the decrease in demand. But to what extent does it offset inflation? Because that's the whole stagflation argument, that if it decreases growth, but inflation does surge higher because the tariffs are that bad, which I would be hoping, at least in the next couple of months, we start walking those back aggressively from the average 10% they are across the entire world, then it's not going to have as big of a hit on inflation, even if it has a big hit on demand. Because I think we can recover from that. But if the Fed has to play this cat and mouse game of trying to take down inflation again, because the tariffs just hike the prices of everything, then that's not going to be fun. So retail sales was good for March, and April, we'll see how it plays out. But as of now, we still don't know what's going to happen with the implication of tariffs on inflation. Now, one other good piece of news is United Airlines. So United is up 3%. It was up 7% yesterday after hours. What did United say? United said something that was, something I've never seen before, but they gave two types of guidance. And I got to give credit to them because they could have easily said, hey, we don't know what's going to happen. We're not going to give any guidance. And they actually chose to keep investors somewhat in the loop of how they're thinking of the business. They essentially said, if we have a recession, as you can see right here on the screen, estimate our EPS to be from $7 to $9. If we don't have a recession, estimate our EPS to be about 40% higher, $11.50 to $13.50. So United is saying if we get a recession, is GG. Like you're not going to have a good year. It's going to be bad. People are not going to be traveling. And that would obviously happen if the tariffs induce some type of recession. But if we have tariff volatility, but it doesn't create a recession, we still think we can put up $11.50 of EPS. All the airlines rallied yesterday on this news. A bunch of other consumer companies rallied on this news. I hope Starbucks, Domino's, Nike, all the consumer companies give this type of guidance because it's the most transparent guidance that I've seen in a while in a pretty tough environment. Hey, if we have a recession, it's bad. If we don't have a recession, we think we can get these numbers. And if they kind of commit to the way they're approaching these numbers, maybe that can give the streets some level of excitement to still be invested in these stocks. But if they give no guidance, then the street's probably not even going to trust their capital because they're going to assume that the companies are assuming a recession, which obviously would just mean that capital flows out equities and it might end up continuing to go into gold, which is what we've seen as we hit a new all-time high this morning. All right, here we go. 9:30, the day after Nvidia chips got banned in China, the stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Nvidia is down 6.3% on the day. 6.3% on the day. Not as bad as kind of where it was even 30 minutes ago, but who knows? Let's see if this falls out. If there's any money buying the dip, we got a little bit of a green candle right there coming in to maybe say we're going to stop the bleeding here. But we opened the day down about $300 billion in market cap. AMD down 7%, $88 now. It was up to 95 yesterday, right back down to 88. The Qs are down about 1.79%. That's nasty. Robinhood down 4%, S&P 500 down 1%, Grab down 2.5%, China FXI down 1.93%, Boeing is down 1%, Palantir down 2.24%, Materials Corporation MP, they're up 6%. So you got a little bit of green there. United Airlines trying to hold on to its green. I mean, I think this stock should be closer to 5%, but obviously the Nvidia stuff is taking it down. But yeah, investors, I guess, getting nervous about holding anything right here based on that headline. And United right here down about 2.6. All the other airlines as well are slightly losing the red. United up 2.4%, whereas American Airlines is down 0.5%. Robinhood down 4%. Boeing again down 1/3%. Meta down 2.5. Meta $8 away from going below 400 or below 500 into the 400s. Costco down 1/3%. SMCI down 3.76. Netflix. Josh Brown sold Google for Netflix yesterday. Thought it was a very interesting decision. He made a hell of an argument. I can't say his argument is horrible. But Netflix right here, 968, that's down about 1%. We have earnings on Thursday. That'll be kicking off big tech earnings. And maybe Netflix is able to weather the storm, even if we do have a recessionary environment, because people want to be subscribed to Netflix. So we're going to see how this Netflix-Google battle turns out over the coming weeks. Tesla right here, 249. That's down about 1.4%. VST and VRT, data center plays, they're down about 4% each. GameStop's down 1%. MicroStrategy's down 1/3%. Where is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is 83.7, not red yet. Holding on to that 83 level. Nvidia not getting hit that bad. It's got a green candle, down 5.5. Maybe the bleeding stops at 105, maybe. Too early to tell, but let's see if that's enough for investors to buy the dip. Now, if Nvidia had disclosed this whole China thing on the earnings, it would have been a death blow. I think it'd be down like 15%. But the fact that they did it a month before earnings, now the beautiful thing about the market is that they can price it in. And because they're pricing it in, they can start moving forward and realizing that it might be a one-time thing. It's a negotiation tactic, yada, yada, move forward. And so maybe that's why we're seeing a little bit of the dip get bought on Nvidia. Robinhood right here, now down only 3%. It was down almost 5%. The S&P 500 still down 1%. The Q's getting hit, obviously, because of Nvidia. Down about 1.5, 1.6%. Where's Mag 7? We've got Apple down 1.2, Microsoft down 1.2, Meta down 2.3, Google down 1.7, Amazon down 1.5, Amazon back below 180. It was 168 on the lows on April 8th. Nvidia right here down 5.5, and then Tesla down 1.3, still 250 currently right now. Nvidia is not that bad, only down 5.5. The reason I'm saying it's not that bad is because it's like I feel like it could be down. It was down 7% in the pre-markets. It could be down even worse. Also, I mean, dude, we saw 105 last week on Nvidia, right? Like at this point, this 100 to 115 range is kind of desensitizing because we've been bouncing back and forth between this for at least 2.5 weeks, excluding the $80 dip that we had on April 8th. But I feel like it could be a lot worse than what it is right now. If Nvidia can't even meet demand, why is China not getting chips a thing to worry about? That's a good question. And this is what Dan Ives' take was last night that says, hey, this is just noise. He's upset about it, just like everybody else. But his argument is that stays strong and long Nvidia, because at the end of the day, demand to supply is 15-1, and Nvidia has a monopoly on the chips that are powering the AI revolution, which is correct. And you know, that is a thesis to continuously stay long Nvidia. This is something that I think they can overcome even if they lose China. It's obviously just annoying to investors because $5.5 billion is not chump change. You know, that's 15% of their earnings or their revenues for Q1 that are now gone. So I think that's the reason why it's getting hit right now. Nubank is green. All right, we got a little bit of green right here on Nubank. What about Mercado Libre? That one is down about 3%. Where is the dollar index? Dixie, wow, new low for the year, 99.52. So the dollar continues to get weaker as equities sell off. Gold continues to surge higher. New all-time high is 3,300 on gold. But the dollar is getting a bit weaker as well, as we're seeing. And this is, you know, a direct impact of people also deciding to sell some of their treasuries. Q still down 1.7, Nvidia down 5.5. Now, Nvidia, we've seen this price action many times where it falls, it like slightly recovers, and that's just the warm-up for it to fall again. So I struggle to say we've hit the bottom for the day because we've seen this many times on Nvidia. The last time I remember was a month ago. It opened at 110, bounced up to 118, and then it tanked all the way to 103. Now, that was a couple weeks after DeepSeek, but still, that was like, we've seen this price action before. So either today is a little bit more of the same or people actually buy the dip. Let me go further from there. MP is up. Yes. Materials, corporations, that's up about 10%. Again, if you're trading this, you've just got to watch out for the headlines. One thing could tank this. One thing could keep this going. And by one thing, I mean Trump's tweets. So this one is really trading off headline volatility right now. Nothing fundamental about the earnings. AMD recovering a little bit as well. It was down 7. Now it's down 5.7, which is not horrible. Weeble's green. Dude, Webull, I told you guys yesterday, I found out their revenues. 2024, they did 300 million in revenue. Robinhood did 3 billion. And they were worth the same. Almost the same. Robinhood was at a $38 billion market cap. Webull was like a $30 billion market. So it was just stupid. It obviously doesn't make any sense, but you've got Wall Street Bets that is speculating on this. It hit a top of 79. It's down from there. So whoever bought at 79 is probably not happy. But 43.78 right here, up 7% currently right now on Webull. How's the VIX? That's a good question. VIX is up 7%. We almost got below 30 yesterday, but we were not able to hold it. We stopped at like $30.15. Right now it's at 32.31. Nvidia right here still down 5.5. So the VIX, as it should be, up 7%. It's green. Look at United going green. All right. This was really encouraging earnings yesterday. United now up 5%. The market seemed to like this idea of giving two types of earnings, recession or no recession, as they felt that at least gives them the choice to either believe in a recession. Okay, like if you believe there's not a recession, then you believe United's going to do well. And that's probably true for a lot of consumer companies. And if you believe there is a recession, you can get out. But at least United is being pretty transparent with how they think of what's happening with earnings right now. Imagine telling your wife that you lost all your money buying Webull at $79 a share. Yeah, that would not be fun. That would not be a fun thing. They still haven't opened up the options chain on this thing. I would love to buy puts on it right now. I would also wonder how much would the covered calls be? Like, I wonder if there's call premium that would be, deployed against this in a meaningful way. Because GameStop, the call premium is ridiculous. People still gamble on calls every week on this thing. I wonder if they do that with Webull as well. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be very, very, very interesting to see how this one plays out. What about today's earnings? Today's earnings, we have... Oh, we did have some earnings this morning. I didn't even realize. I was looking at the China-Japan stuff so much. So we had Progressive, ASML, PLD, ABT, and US Bank. Now, ASML, I did see last night because they reported like 3 a.m. because they are in the Netherlands, if I'm not wrong. They missed on 2 metrics, EPS and revenue. Wasn't the worst miss, but ASML was going to go down today regardless because of the Nvidia news. They're down. They missed on EPS by 1% and then revenue by 5%. Not amazing earnings, but it's also like, analyst expectations might have been just a smidge too high right here. But ASML in general is down because of the volatility from Nvidia. They gave soft guidance. Okay, I didn't look at their guidance, but yeah, it makes sense that they gave soft guidance given they don't know if Nvidia chips will be banned from China for the rest of the year, which obviously will affect them. Thoughts on AMD? Again, I would just rather buy Nvidia. I know there's a big AMD cult that loves this name, and that's fine. AMD back above 90 right here. I think I understand Nvidia a little bit better. I think they're going to grow a lot more. And I think AMD is always one step behind when it comes to the next generation chip. And so I'd rather just bet on the winner. It's just that simple. But I don't hate anyone buying AMD here. I do think AMD is undervalued, especially on a forward PE basis. I sleep better at night having Nvidia. But I think 5 years from now, do I think AMD or Nvidia is going to be a bad investment buying it in 2025? No, I think the entire AI revolution will help them both dramatically. I just personally think Nvidia will outperform. And the question is going to be if that ends up playing out. Netflix right here down about 1%. Palantir down 1.8. Palantir did get another deal today with another drone company. It was a deal that went a little under the radar, but they got a partnership with Skywatch. It's a Danish drone manufacturer. So Copenhagen and Palantir, Copenhagen manufacturer Skywatch entered into an agreement with Palantir. These companies will utilize their individual expertise to multiply the effort of the Skywatch drones, and the Palantir platform will be gathering and analyzing immense data fusion intelligence from different platforms to be able to operate those drones. The specific drone is the RQ-35. Haven't looked into this too much. Just saw the headline this morning, but it looks like we are, by the way, Webull just went red on the day. It looks like we are partnering with a drone manufacturer. A lot of drone companies are raising venture capital. You had Shield AI, you had Red Cat, which is another stock that's public in the context of drones. I interviewed the CEO at AIPCon. I mean, drones, and what he told me is the defense, the DoD in particular, wants to buy a crap ton of drones because they see this as a way to reduce the need to send out a human in a fighter jet and, you know, risk their life if they can just deploy a drone. Well, if you want to deploy a drone, A, the hardware has to be good enough, but B, the software, aka Palantir, theoretically, that is operating the drone needs to be autonomous and smart enough to be able to execute the mission. So it seems like drone demand is only going to get stronger and stronger, and Palantir could be an operating system for many different drone companies across the world. So I think that is a big market for them as well. Lyft is green. What about Uber? Uber is red. Lyft acquired a company today, if I'm not wrong, for about 200 million bucks. Yeah, they acquired this might not have happened today, but oh no, they did. They entered the European market and they acquired a company called FreeNow. Does anyone know this company, FreeNow? They acquired a company called FreeNow. Is that like a European version of Uber? I've never heard of FreeNow. FreeNow is, yeah, it's they spent 175 million euros. That was disclosed this morning. Wow. Dude, there's so many Uber copycats. That's crazy. Across the entire world. There's another one in Southeast Asia called Bolt. I mean, Grab is an Uber copycat, right? And I like Grab, but there's a lot of elements to Grab that I like besides them just being a ride-hailing company. Interesting. So Lyft is deepening their presence in the European markets. $4.6 billion market cap, up about 1.38% on the day. FreeNow is big in the UK, but more expensive than Uber in London. Okay, a lot of you guys from Europe saying that you don't like FreeNow. That's wild, bro. There's so many different copycats to Uber. Like in China, they have DD. In Singapore, they have Grab. They have Gojek. In Indonesia. When I went to India in October, I just used Uber. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a couple Indian copycats, but Uber was just like the default that I used. But the market is so big for ride hailing that like the fact that a competitor can be worth a couple billion, even when Uber is in like 150 countries, just shows it's a massive market. It's also bullish for robotaxis because there's a massive opportunity for robotaxis, obviously, because the transportation market is so huge. Tesla right here down about 2%, but Tesla's got to be able to execute to get there. By the way, speaking of robotaxi, there was a clip that just came out the other day, like yesterday, of a Model Y that was being used in India. There you go. There it is right there. Now, this road is like one of the cleanest roads I've ever seen in India. Like, yeah, they picked the literal cleanest road they could find with no traffic to test out this Model Y. I don't know if it was doing FSD. Maybe it was. Maybe they were trying to get some tests right here. But given I just came back from India 5 months ago, I don't see FSD entering the country for like the next decade. Maybe not for the next 2 decades. And I'm dead serious about that. Like, there is just realistically, FSD across the country is a pipe dream. And I'd bet a lot of money that it never happens. To be honest, it never at least it never happens in the next couple of decades, or it just never happens. Like, I just don't think you're going to evolve a small area with 1.3 billion people to allow for something to be autonomous. I just don't think it's going to happen. Tesla could sell in India. People could buy Tesla cars, but the idea that FSD would work, I doubt it. I really doubt it. Walking across the street in India is taking your life into your own hands. Dude, that's a fact, bro. Like, my mom still gets afraid, like, when I walk with my cousins in India. Like, she's like literally her hands are trembling because she knows that it's not like the United States. And she grew up in India, so she knew, when she had to go to school in the morning and the shit she had to go through to get on the bus and all this stuff. Like, it's scary. There's a lot of people there. So, yeah, I don't think FSD is coming to India anytime soon, but still the ride-hailing market is gigantic. Hood right here down about 3.2%, Grab down about 1%, S&P still down 1% on the day, Nvidia down 5.5%. So that green candle, we bounced from 104, we're now at 106, but we aren't really moving from that 106 level. You can't say the next decade because we don't know how advanced the technology will be by then. That's fair. We don't know how advanced the tech will be, but I know India will be freaking dirty in a decade. It'll probably be dirty in 2 decades. And when I mean dirty, I just mean that, the country allows cows and shit to walk on the street. There's like a billion stray dogs. There's tons of cows, like literally on the highway. I just came back in October. The cows take priority over the cars. We're talking about a highway, 70 miles an hour. The cars will stop to let the cows pass. You're telling me FSD is going to work there? No way, bro. Like it's not happening. So it's a country that has a lot of issues, and it's not really their fault. There's just a big population and there's a small space. So I just don't think that's a market that's going to easily evolve for FSD. The cow is sacred. That's correct. I literally did a YouTube short. Do you guys remember I did that YouTube short? If you go on my channel, you'll see I was walking with the cows on the street. They are treated as holy creatures there, and they will not block them from the highways. SMCI right here down 3.5%. Meta down 2%. Day 2 of the antitrust trial. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Meta. What was interesting about Meta yesterday is that it was revealed that Zuckerberg offered $450 million to the FTC in order to let go of the trial. And the FTC basically laughed at him. What does the FTC want? They want $30 billion. The FTC wants $30 billion for a settlement. I don't think there's any world in which that's a full quarter for Zucks. I don't think they're going to give away $30 billion, but I think that $450 million might turn into a couple billion to settle this. But it's either he produces a settlement or he's going to have to get rid of Instagram and WhatsApp, or he's going to have to win the trial. And I don't know how the trial is going to play out, but Zucks might want to just pay the parking ticket before going forward from there. So that's what was revealed yesterday. And it was really interesting because it's like the FTC, I think, is seeing this as a money grab at this point. I don't think they actually want to break up Meta, but they know that Meta has the money. And if they can give any type of legitimate argument for why Meta should be broken up, they might convince Zucks, hey, it's better to give them a couple billion than risking the empire being essentially destroyed by breaking up WhatsApp and Instagram, because all of those synergistically flow into the Facebook ecosystem, and that obviously would not be a good thing. So that's the main update. Zuckerberg hasn't given his testimony yet. I think that happens either today or tomorrow, but Zuckerberg will be testifying and he will be taking the stand, and he'll be letting everyone, know about if he is going to capitulate or if he's going to keep defending the empire that is Facebook. Nvidia right here is still down about 5.5%. But I do think the FTC realizes this is an easy money grab, and they're going to try to get as much money as they can out of Meta at this point. Yeah, 30 billion. That's what they wanted. 30 freaking billion, dude. It's pretty insane. I think it might end up being a couple billion, but I don't think it's going to be 30 billion. And the way they got that 30 billion number is because they were like, this is the number of alleged penalties based on them, I guess, illegally buying Instagram and WhatsApp. And it's like Obama's FTC allowed them to buy Instagram and WhatsApp. So it's like there was nothing illegal about it. Like the FTC was the one who cleared it back in 2012 and 2014. But they estimate $30 billion is the damages. And I think Zucks is like, you're not going to get 30 billion, bro. That's not going to happen. Amid, is all this red from Nvidia? Correct. All this red is from Nvidia. All of it. Now, we had some headlines this morning about China not wanting to work or wanting to work with the United States, but still saying we're going to fight till the end, yada, yada. So trade tensions with China are escalating as well, which could be contributing to this volatility. We do have some good news in the context of Japan. Hopefully we get a deal on that soon, but that is insignificant compared to the fact that Nvidia is going to have a 15% miss on their Q1 revenue earning guidance based on the fact that $5.5 billion is not going to be sold to China in the context of chips. Now, we did get some other tariff updates for China and Tesla, which is not the best thing either. Tesla is reportedly pausing plans to ship parts of its Cybercab and semis from China, potentially disrupting its timeline to start mass production. Tesla aimed to begin trial runs in October 2025 with full production in 2026 of the Cybercab in Texas and then the the semi-truck in Nevada. But that's not happening anymore. Tesla was initially prepared to absorb costs from Trump's 34% tariff on Chinese goods, but with rates climbing even higher, shipping plans have now been put on hold. This hasn't been confirmed by Tesla yet. This was a report this morning, but it looks like the mass production of the Cybercab is now going to be delayed. And look, Elon has a pretty easy excuse here, just like every CEO in America. They can say, hey, all the products and raw materials and parts we needed from China are now being taxed at 145%. So we're going to have to find a solution to this, and it's going to take us more time. And as a result, now Tesla feels the impact. And Piper Sandler says, hey, we got to cut the price target. So they said, hey, 450 to 400. Q1 deliveries now 337,000, missed estimates of about 400,000, likely pushing gross margins to multi-year lows with no specs or pricing yet for the Model 2, which is the Cybercab. Near-term delivery growth looks limited. We're cutting our estimates and lowering the price target to 400. Near-term view is bearish, but big picture catalysts like robotaxis could spark a strong rally. When that happens, we wouldn't want to be underweight. So, yeah, essentially Piper Sandler saying, hey, go long on Tesla, but in the short term, you're going to feel some pain. Now, the 245% headline, again, that's going viral. I saw it happening last night, but it's not necessarily accurate. We're not tariffing every product in China by 245%. We are tariffing certain products by 245%. Some of those include syringes, but the vast majority of everything else is 145%. I'm going to try to get the picture that shows the outline. Yeah, here it is. This is the picture that shows all the different tariff rates. Syringes and needles at 245%. Obviously, those are some of the main products used in fentanyl. So, you know, the United States is trying to tariff those aggressively to stop the flow of fentanyl. And then you have lithium ion batteries at 173%. Squid, for some reason, is being tariffed at 170%. I don't think I've ever eaten squid before. Wool sweaters are being tariffed at 169%. Plastic dishes, 159. Toasters, 150. Electric cars, 148. And then everything else is closer to 145. Laptops are at 20%, along with iPhones, which is good for Apple. Children's books are at 0%. Really nice to know that children's books are not going to be tariffed. But everything else is going to be getting a aggressive tariff from the United States. So there you go. Rest in peace, Squid Games. Yeah, exactly. I've never had squid before. Have you guys had squid? I've never had squid. But yeah, these are the tariffs that are putting out there. Where's Rocket Lab? That was up 10% yesterday. Did that get any love? Rocket Lab, it's still holding above 20, down 5%, but it's still holding above 20. I think if you're a Rocket Lab shareholder, you can't be that mad. 16 to 22, back to 20. I mean, if you can hold 20, you would be okay with that. Nvidia falling back down, 105.5, now down 6%. Tessie down 3, Uber down 2, Weeble's up 5, the Q's down 2, Netflix down 1, Bitcoin now finally goes red, 83.6. United holding on by a thread, barely up 1%. All that 5% is getting hit. All of this, in my opinion, because of Nvidia. Robinhood down 5%, looks like it wants to go back below 40. Palantir down 3, the S&P officially down 1.3, very close to 1.5, and then if Nvidia falls out, it's probably going to go down 2% on the day. You've never had calamari? I don't think I have. Or if I have, I don't remember it. It's Italian for squid. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had calamari. I feel like I've had to, but I don't remember it at all. Yeah, I guess I haven't. I guess we need to try that out. But now it'll be tariffed. So we'll be paying a lot more at Olive Garden for calamari. J-Pow is speaking today. It seems like at 1:30. So we will see what J-Pow says at 1:30. I'll do a separate live stream for that. Very curious to see how he's thinking of what's going on with tariffs. But yeah, we will get good old J-Pow speaking today. Let me check the probabilities for rate cuts. I still think we're definitely not going to get it in May. Yeah, May, there's a 19% probability. June, there's a, wow, that went down. It was 65% yesterday. Now it's 57%. So the fear of tariff inflation is probably leading to the expectations of rate cuts falling, even though I do think in June we're inevitably going to get that cut. I feel like I'm part of Squid Games for investors. Yeah, someone said that yesterday. It's red light, green light every day. Red light, green light every day. And you literally can get killed in terms of your capital in a certain stock if you move in the wrong direction and there's a red light versus a green light. Grab down 1%. S&P just continues to tank, down 1.35. Currently right now on the day. We don't get the minutes today. We got the minutes last week. The FOMC minutes were pretty bland. We got them on Friday. They didn't say anything special. They pretty much just said, hey, we're going to be data dependent. Now, they were before the April 2nd tariff announcement. So the next FOMC minutes, which I think we get in 2 weeks, that's going to be way more important because they'll be discussing the implication of tariffs. Just like the import data yesterday, import prices, it was negative, but it doesn't matter because it was before the tariffs. So once the tariffs come in, we'll actually see if import prices are meaningfully higher, which could affect inflation. A lot of the data that comes out in May that'll be describing what happened in April is really what's going to matter. Who's buying Nvidia? Who's buying the dip on Nvidia? Is anyone touching it? Is anyone taking a little bit of a stab at this one? 105.4 on Nvidia. What did the poll say? Most of you said it's going to keep dipping. Yeah, 59% of you said Nvidia keeps going down today versus get spot. Oh, most of you guys are buying the dip. All right, people are buying the dip. Amit, stop the red. Dude, I wish I could. I really wish I could. I do not have the power to stop the red. I can increase the red, though. I can go get a Saratoga. That'll increase it. Could definitely do that. Dude, I think I was at like a 7-Eleven yesterday, and I saw the Saratogas. And for a second, I thought of getting it. But if I had bought it yesterday, and then the Nvidia announcement happened after hours, every single one of you would have associated that Nvidia announcement that I don't think I have control over. I don't think Saratoga has control over it, but all of you would have associated the freaking Nvidia export control with me buying Saratoga. So I didn't buy it. But I did see it yesterday. And I was thinking of it. But I'm not gonna go down with the ship when it comes to this. Meta at 508. When are we buying? Dude, I would buy now. I want, if the trial has worse headlines, which based on how it's going, they're not great headlines, I think this thing easily goes below 500. And that's when I get a bit more excited for it. But if you really want to start a DCA, I can't blame you here because the trial could switch and Zuckerberg could offer a couple billion and then it's over with. But then again, if he has to offer a couple billion, that's money that's leaving Meta. So that's a hit to their earnings. Granted, it would be temporary, but still. Because with Google at 170 when the trial started last year, I think it fell from 190 to 170 and people were like, all right, that's the dip. And then it went down to 145 because the trial started getting really aggressive and people really started thinking they were going to break up YouTube, Android, Chrome. I don't have enough clarity on how bad is this trial going for Zucks. I think the trial is stupid, and I think he's gonna be okay. And I think at the end of the day, he has Dana White. I think they're gonna make calls to Trump. I think they will find a way to navigate this. There's no way they're gonna break up the empire that is Meta. But I also think we might get some better prices on it before that happens. The other thing is, I'm a little scared about their earnings, and the reason I'm scared is because I'm like, what if they say ad budgets are going down? Meta makes, I might be slightly off on this, but it's at least 95% of the revenue on ads. No, I'm not wrong on that. They did 40 billion last quarter. 38 out of the 40 was ads, and then they make a couple $100 million from that from the wearables, like the glasses, and then they have this other product. What's it called? That thing that you can FaceTime people with. I forgot the name of the product, but it's like some hardware device. And then Reality Labs is always in a loss. So if advertising budgets go down, I don't see how that's bullish for Meta, even if it's a short-term thing that happens, which would create a good dip. But I do feel like that could be bad for them. Nicholas, thank you for the $10 super chat. Hey, mate, what do you think of Reddit as a buy? 60% growth, 90% gross profit margins. I like Reddit, but the problem with Reddit, in my opinion, right here, is that their AI moat seems to be uniquely targeted towards licensing the data on the platform to something like a Google, which I think they already are in a deal with. I don't know how much of a growth driver that is for the broader company itself. The overall revenue growth is good. They've now turned profitable. And look, you're getting a discount from when it was $250. But if ad budgets get killed in the context of Meta, yeah, that's going to hurt Reddit as well. That's going to hurt X. That's going to hurt all Google, all those companies. And then number two, they license their AI, they license their data to Google's AI for $60 million, which is not a ton of money. So I'm curious, what's the actual AI play right here? Because if it's just licensing the data, I don't think that's going to be a ton of capital that you can expect as an investor that believes Reddit's an AI play to be able to grow into. But if you're buying it purely for the growth and profitability, I don't hate it here. I just think it's still trading at a 12 times price to sales. It's a risky environment. So Reddit could obviously see some downside if ad budgets continue to collapse. Reddit monetizing the platform is the story to look out for, not AI data. That's fair, but Reddit ads suck. And we know Reddit ads suck. Like anyone who's been on Reddit, the ads absolutely suck. So if I was buying Reddit, I would not be buying it for the advertising or the user growth. I'd be buying it for the AI play. until they give me evidence that the advertising and user growth is getting better. And that they don't have Facebook level targeting, right? Like they're not an ad behemoth like Meta. So I think for them, I would just wait for the earnings, dude. Like you should be in no rush to buy a company that's trading at the multiple that it's trading at into the risky environment we're in. Maybe it pumps on earnings, but I feel like you have plenty of time to be patient here when it comes to Reddit. Amid, fair to say this won't stop until people can no longer buy the dip or don't want to bid. Yeah, I guess we need max fear, right? And I don't know if we're at max fear. It felt like 2 weeks ago we were at max fear after April 2nd. Nvidia right here, 105.21, 20 cents away from going back to the 104 lows that we saw this morning, but I wouldn't say we're necessarily in max fear currently right now. Walmart is down. Where's Walmart? Walmart, yeah, wow. Walmart getting hit, down 2%. The retailers, looks like they're getting hit today. Where's Target? Target getting hit. Home Depot. Home Depot is, down 1%. Lowe's, down 1%. All of the retailers, along with the semis, Nvidia leading the way, is down. But you know what's up 14%? Webull, baby. We freaking bull. Webull is up. So you are not scared about Tesla earnings, but you are about Meta. No, I'm scared about Tesla earnings as well. I mean, I asked the poll yesterday, how many of you guys think Tesla goes below 200? I don't know anymore, dude. Like, could I see it easily go below 200? Sure. But do I also think that it's been holding up like a champ and it could, decline, but it doesn't have to decline that aggressively? Yeah, because the delivery numbers were disgusting and it only fell 5%. The only time it actually fell to 210 was when Trump announced the tariffs. So I think, yeah, I could see below 200, but I wouldn't count on it. I also wouldn't count on it bouncing back up to 300. But if I had gun to my head, if I had to pick Tesla tanks or moons on earnings, I would pick tanks. Like if I had to buy puts or calls, I would obviously buy puts because I don't see how the number is going to be any good. And the guidance they give is also going to be kind of crappy, bro. Like there's no way demand, given what's happening with the brand, is going to be that much better in Q2 than it was in Q1. A lot of people are saying Q1's demand problems were because of the supply chain and the Model Y refresh. Maybe, but based on a lot of other data we looked at, especially in Europe, people just don't want to buy Teslas. So, I mean, Q2, I think, is going to really tell us, do people actually hate the brand or was it a one-time supply chain issue? Nvidia goes below 105. There you go. 104.99 here. 104.95 currently right now. Or is it going to be an issue around the supply chain in Tesla? And I think going into the August quarter, we're going to find a lot more data on that. Is Fartcoin green? Why not? Why not? No, Fartcoin's down only 1%. Dude, Fartcoin got back to almost $1 billion market cap. I guess I missed seeing that happen. Last time I saw it, it was 400 million. Look at that. $887 million market cap. $283 million worth of Fartcoin was traded in the past 24 hours. That's basically 25% of its market cap was traded in the past 24 hours. It's the hedge, baby. This and gold is the hedge. Earnings were not great last time and it jumped up. Yes, but when people make this argument, they're forgetting the macro was totally different. Like when Tesla had crappy earnings in Q4 and it bounced up to like what, $430 was the top after those earnings. It went to 368 and then it bounced to 430 within like 10 minutes. That was before we had this insane tariff trade war policy that we're going through right now. And so now in this macro, same thing with Reddit, right? Reddit trades at an aggressive multiple, even though it's down from 250, but one could say it never deserved to be at 250, just like one could say Tesla never deserved to be at 430. So if you're buying Reddit right now or a Tesla or any of these names that are trading at, even a Palantir that are trading at these multiples, now I think Palantir is going to have a good earnings, so Palantir could justify it. But a lot of these companies, if they don't have a phenomenal earnings, they might not be able to justify it. And then the macro sucks and then the multiple gets compressed. Which is why I think a lot of money is just going to be on the sidelines until we actually get like good earnings from these companies, or at least more clarity on earnings from these companies. Let me see if we have any other headlines that are crossing the wire currently right now. Let's see. We talked about China. We talked about Japan. Will Powell save the day? That's a good question. Bank of Canada holds their policy rate at 2.75%. So the Bank of Canada did not cut rates today. I didn't know they were having a meeting today, but apparently they were. Bank of Canada not cutting rates. They also said, the Bank of Canada, a long global trade war with China can trigger, with Canada can trigger a recession. Makes sense that they're saying that. Obviously, they don't like that we're having a trade war with Canada as well. Yeah, it seems like those are the headlines. Oh, Iran says U.S. talks at risk of falling apart if goalposts are moved. I think we're going to be beginning negotiations. We already started on Saturday with Iran, later this week as well. Trump has been pretty clear that they can do whatever, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. He even told the El Salvadorian president to his face yesterday, you can't have a nuclear weapon either. He was answering a question. He looked at him. He was like, hey, Iran can't have one. El Salvador can't have one. And I was like, damn. Just told him straight to his face. By the way, I looked up some stats about El Salvador yesterday. 34 billion GDP. It is not a rich company or country. It's a very, very poor country. So it makes sense that Nayib is trying to have good relationships with the United States. The average salary per month for someone living in El Salvador is $420. So it makes sense why he wants to have such a good relationship with the United States, because they're obviously trying to increase the overall GDP of that country. And crime, and gang violence has been ruining the country for the past decade. So you kind of need to solve that to be able to get to any level of economic mobility. But yeah, El Salvador, not one of the richest countries in Latin America. Robinhood right here, down about 4.5%. S&P still down 1.2%. Costco down 1%. If Costco is down 1%, then the market's getting really bearish here, just on the overall names, given it's supposed to be more recession-proof. Delta's up just a little bit. IBKR, wow, down 10%. Holy crap, dude. IBKR didn't have a bad earnings. That's surprising. Why are they taking IBK? Weird, bro. They did not have a crappy earnings at all. That's not bullish for Robinhood. Taking down IBKR is not the best thing for any of the brokerage companies right here. I actually don't understand that. They didn't say anything from what I saw that would warrant a 10%, unless the market's thinking, okay, because we're going into a bear market, then we should sell off the brokerages because they're not going to get a ton of business going into Q2, which is not a horrible thesis, but I didn't expect them to say it like that. Yes, Powell speaks at 1:30. Didn't they have a double beat? Yeah, they had a double beat. It's weird that the market is, I guess the market's pulling forward expectations for Q2. That's the only way I could explain it. Let's get another update on the tariffs right here, based on Nvidia and some more stuff in the context of China.
It's H20 AI chips that are made specifically for China. The charge will be taken in Q1, and it'll cover H20 inventory and purchase commitments, as well as some related reserves, but comes just over a week. I remember reporting this 2 Fridays ago after CEO Jensen Huang reportedly secured a reprieve during a high-profile dinner at Mar-a-Lago. The licensing requirements, though, are set to remain for the indefinite future and come despite NVIDIA's announcement just on Monday about plans to invest $500 billion in U.S.-based AI infrastructure. Well, there's the art of the deal. While significant, the impact may be contained, though. China accounted for approximately $17 billion in NVIDIA's fiscal 2025 revenue, representing just 13% of total revenue, which is the smallest percentage in over a decade. But based off of a lot of sell-side research this morning, they are expecting an impact to Q1 EPS, which is why you're seeing the stock fall about 6%. AMD also said it would take an $800 million charge in the quarter. And this is in a filing today. AMD said it will seek licenses to export to customers in China, but cannot be sure of securing them. That's because these licenses could take up to 6 or 12 months to actually procure. But a bigger threat looms. Potential AI diffusion rules could take effect in May. These would limit NVIDIA as well as AMD sales to many more countries and customers. So this regulatory whiplash really highlights the unpredictable nature of tech trade policy under the Trump administration, where even personal appeals at million-dollar dinners don't offer guarantees. Carl?
Christina, yeah.
Or David?
No. I just had a question quickly. I mean, you kind of answered it. The licenses, I mean, there seems to be an expectation in the marketplace they're not going to get the licenses, even though it's not being deemed blocking entirely the sales. That seems to be the way the market seems to be thinking about it.
if you were to take the CHIPS Act and how long that takes to disperse and all the people involved, I know it's not exactly the same people under the Trump administration, but just think of all the paperwork they have to go through, figuring out where the supply chain and then providing them with the license. So that is the assumption that it could take up to a year to even get. And then the chips would be obsolete to a certain degree.
That's true. Innovating so quickly. Still commerce, still the Commerce Department. Christina, thank you. Christina Partsinevelos.
All right. Chips export controls continue to face more issues. Here's another update on Japan and the critical mining materials for rare earth minerals.
An executive order directing his Commerce Department to examine processed critical minerals and all of their derivative products to see whether they harm U.S. national security. Now, this will take up to 6 months. The order says the Commerce Department will lead this, and at the end of that, Commerce Secretary Lutnick will recommend tariffs or not on any of those products. The president then decides how to proceed. He does not have to move forward with tariffs, but it is, of course, the first step. And as you said, this just continues to expand the trade war. This is one of now President Trump's favorite tools. It's known as Section 232 that he's using here. And this is at least the 5th ongoing 232 investigation that could lead to sort of those sector-specific tariffs we've been talking about. Copper, lumber, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals are the other ones, all launched before this one, but now add critical minerals to that list. And I'll note, guys, that this is sort of a more robust process. It does take a little bit longer, but these tariffs would be seen as more permanent and harder to revoke if they did get imposed than some of the others that are more often seen sort of as bargaining chips. And that leads us to some tariff confusion this morning. In putting out the fact sheet on that 232 investigation, the White House included a line late last night that said tariffs on China are now up to 245%. I want to be clear here. There has been no change in policy, no change in the total tariff rate against China. We've been talking about the rate of 145% now since last week. That always has to be added to any tariffs that were already in place before President Trump took office just in January for this term. The tariffs before he took office this term ranged from about 7.5% all the way to 100% on just a small number of items. Things like medical syringes are at the top of that range. When you add those together, you get to the 245. Finally, guys, we could see just a little bit of movement on the trade front today. The president posted on social media this morning that Japanese officials will be in Washington today to meet with him, with his Treasury Secretary and his Commerce Secretary to discuss tariffs, the cost of military support, and what he called trade fairness. So we'll see what comes from that meeting. That's the kind of thing that could potentially lead to a deal that could lead Japan to see some lower tariffs at the end of this 90-day pause. Guys?
Megan, as for China and these so-called conditions that they'd like to see imposed before talks with them began, I wonder, do you think that sets up a little momentum at the White House?
A little bit. It's tough to read too much into these statements. We heard President Trump via the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, yesterday, said he was open to a deal as long as China was being respectful and reaching out. China then saying that they're open to a deal as long as the U.S. meets their terms. It's clear that they're both playing a little bit of hardball still. We'll have to see who ultimately goes far enough to either make the phone call, set up the first meeting. They need something to sort of push them over that ledge, because even if lower level officials are talking, clearly these principals need to be talking, and we're just not there yet.
Megan Casella, I don't know how you balance it all, but great work, Megan Casella at the White House today. Meantime,
Japan, rare earth minerals, and China. Those are the three things that the White House is juggling with right now. Obviously, the China stuff implicates the chips, which is why everything's down right now. But those were the major headlines from last night. Nvidia right here is still down 6.3%, not really getting enough buyers to step in and buy at these levels. Lyft is up a little bit. Tesla's still down 2%. Webull still up 13%, because why not? United Airlines just went red. Netflix red on the day. Bitcoin slightly green. The Q's down a full 2%. It looks like Nvidia is waiting for the bottom to fall out, dude. Doesn't look like Nvidia wants to just chill out at this level. It either wants to go higher or it wants to officially break below 100. And I'd rather they just get it over with, especially for me to finish the Nvidia position in my portfolio. It's like, all right, just take it back to 80 at this point. Let's get it over with. And let's hopefully just rip the Band-Aid off. But holding on at this 104, 105 level. Meta right here, 506, new low of the day. Meta did hit 505 at one point. Down 3% with the rest of the market. Enphase is green. Wow. Why is Enphase green? Up 2%. especially with oil coming down. Why is Enphase? Oil's up a little bit today, but oil is down a lot for the year. That's weird. Enphase now, dude. This thing was $330. Look at this max chart, bro. 339. I wish someone told me about Enphase when I was in college. It was 65 cents. I would have bought as much as I could afford if I knew it was going to become a solar behemoth. But it's down aggressively. Most people started buying in this $150, $200 range, and then we got Trump, and the solar revolution kind of died out. I mean, I think there still is going to be a solar revolution. It's just not as important anymore as people thought it was a decade ago. It looks like the Newsmax chart, yeah. It's been a pretty disgusting stock right here. How many NVIDIA shares do you have? I have 925. The goal is 1,000. Average is 120. I think adjusted average is like 115. My NVIDIA calls. So here's what happens when a stock tanks. Your equity loses some value, but your covered calls gain a lot of value. So as you can see, 9 contracts. We got 85 cents average credit. We are up 95% right now. If NVIDIA stays below 119 by Friday, we keep all the money and the shares. And so basically, the gamblers that bought the call expiring on April 17th, I sold it to them. The reason I was able to sell it to them is because I covered the call. That's why it's called a covered call with 100 shares. So I had to own the 100 shares. And I said NVIDIA will not get to 119. They said NVIDIA will. And then we played a game. And someone had to be right in that game. It turns out that China helped me a lot today, or I should say Donnie T helped me a lot today by banning NVIDIA from selling it to China. And although I'm down like 15K on the equity, I'm up 1,000 on the covered call. So there you go. That's the hedge right there. NVIDIA now, new low of the day, 104.84. 104.84. Yeah, for everyone saying close it now, why? Like, do we really think it's going to get to 119 by Friday? If it does, that would be hilarious. But I don't know, dude. I don't think NVIDIA is going to 119 by Friday. So there's no reason to close it. Why would you guys close? You really think NVIDIA is going to go 119 by Friday? Like, what's the catalyst for NVIDIA to go to 119 by Friday? That would be, hold on, 119 minus 104 divided by 104. That would be a 15% move on NVIDIA. That would be 15 times. That would be a $400 billion market cap move in 3 days. After this headline, we got that $5 billion of their 15% of their revenue for Q1 is basically gone. I mean, I'd take the risk. I don't think it's getting to 119 by Friday. Oh, you mean Thursday? Wait, April 17th. Oh, tomorrow. Yeah, it's not going to 119 tomorrow, bro. I would have to pay $35 to close the contract. I want to keep my $35. Keeping these damn $35 here. They're not getting a single penny out of me, bro. They already took enough money on the equity. But this is the good thing about covered calls, right? Like it is a hedge again. Like either you could have sold that covered call and made a little bit of money as NVIDIA falls 7% today, or you would have just been down 7% on the equity. So it like softens the blow a little bit, but obviously it's still a aggressive blow. Dude, I forgot Friday the market's closed. That means we only have one more day left after this. Damn. It's a short week, dude. What am I going to do with my life on Friday, bro? What am I like? If I don't have tariff updates and candlesticks, what do I do on Friday? I'm just going to be walking around purposely with nothing to do on Friday. Dude, you know, I had a dream last night. I think I was listening to some podcast about the market, but I fell asleep. You know, you ever fall asleep when the podcast is playing and then the podcast enters into your dream? And so in my dream, we're like, what was the stock they were talking about? They were talking about freaking Domino's. They were talking about Domino's. And I wake up and I start thinking about Domino's. I'm like, why am I thinking about? And then I look at my YouTube watch history and I'm like, I listened to an hour-long podcast around Domino's and it showed up in my dream. And then I woke up and I was like subconsciously just like I was obsessed with Domino's for some reason. I was like, oh, I just heard 5 hours of Domino's in my dreams. So it was kind of funny. But Friday, we're not going to get anything to do with the markets. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some headlines on Friday, even if it's not going to be affecting the markets. Where is Domino's stock right now? DPZ down about 0.5%. Buffett still owns a crap ton of Domino's. I believe it's about a couple million shares, and I guess that is his pseudo recession hedge to an extent. He owns 2.3 million shares. 2.3 million shares. His average price is $4.19, so he's currently still up on those shares. Listen to your own live streams for a full meta experience. That would be funny. I don't think I've ever fallen asleep to my own live stream. That feels kind of egotistical. At least it was someone else's podcast. What podcast was it? Let me check. What podcast was it? It was it was Josh Brown. It was some stream they did 3 months ago, bro. It wasn't even a recent. That's probably why they were talking about They were probably talking about Domino's because Buffett disclosed 3 months ago that he bought Domino's, and somehow the YouTube algorithm magically picked this video to play while I was sleeping. Yeah, this is from freaking January 7th. And that's how he ended up in my dream. Will there still be a show on Friday? Maybe we could do a show. I mean, maybe. Well, if it's maybe me and Steve can just do a live stream like at noon or something. If there's because I'm sure he's off. It's a religious holiday, right? So he's off of. Yeah, it's Good Friday, so I'm assuming he's off of work as well. So yeah, maybe we can do something in the evening, even if we don't do a market open. Netflix right here down about 0.5%. United going green again. Nvidia still getting stuck in this 105 range, not really making any momentum right here. Down 6.3%. I've fallen asleep to you loads. Yeah, Tessa's told me many times she's fallen asleep to me. Hey, it happens. It happens. Sometimes you just have your phone on. And I remember one time, I told you guys this a month ago, I fell asleep to a Lex Friedman podcast about Soviet Russia. That was a wild dream, bro. Do you guys remember what I said? I was trapped in a Russian bathroom, and I like the Russian guards were monitoring everything I did. Like it was probably like a Russian jail, and it was a bathroom in a jail. It was the weirdest thing ever. And it's probably because subconsciously the guy on the podcast was talking about Soviet Russia and how aggressive they were and how you had no freedoms, etc. But yeah, I had that dream a couple months ago. Oh wow, Gary Gensler was on CNBC today. Wow, let's listen to what he had to say. Gensler's been gone for a minute after Trump fired him. I wonder what he has to say about the current state of what's going on with the markets and crypto. Let's listen to a little bit of this.
About the role of the SEC being used in the way that Rick Scott is effectively asking for.
First, it's great to be back with you, Andrew and Joe. I miss Becky, but good to see you, Kelly, and all of your viewers. Look, it's a privilege to be in the U.S. markets. We have the deepest, most liquid markets. They've been very choppy recently, as you know, because of all the policy uncertainty. But China for 20 years was not really following our rules, but we were successful in a bipartisan way with Senator Rick Scott. He and I used to talk on occasion about this, with a lot of success with other senators as well, negotiating with China that they behaved and they followed the rules. And we treated China with respect, but with firmness. And as long as I was there, they entered into a 50-page agreement, and they have been abiding by those agreements.
So, Gary, you've negotiated with the Chinese before. To the extent that you can try to put your head in their head, how do you see all of this playing out as it relates to tariffs?
I spent a lot of time with their Ministry of Finance and their senior financial regulators, and I think it's not going to end well, Andrew. I think it's going to be a bit of a quagmire. My experience is that they're tough negotiators, don't get me wrong, and they're looking out for their advantage. But the best way to handle that situation is to be consistent, to be honorable and treat them with dignity, and to take the toughest messages private and one-on-one, And I will tell you this, when they see inconsistency in policy, they tend to veer back. They lean back and they don't like to engage. And they sort of think that time is on their side. I'm not saying it always is, but that's how they think, is time's on their side and they can outweigh the volatility of the policy on the other side. So that's why consistency, respect, but yes, firmness is important.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's pretty obvious, but it doesn't look like we're going to get any progress anytime soon until we begin the negotiations. Again, Bessent said literally today, we might run into China based on the meetings that they're having with Japan later today, but he did not confirm the negotiations have started. I think the market could run just off the headline that China negotiations have begun, because then the market immediately is going to start pricing in, okay, negotiations are starting. They're probably going to get a deal done. We can start buying stocks and pricing in that some deal is going to be made, even if it's not the best deal in the world, and we can move forward, which is why I think selling the market right now doesn't make sense, because inevitably this deal gets done. Like, I just don't think for the next 4 years we don't have a deal with China. I don't think that's realistic, no matter what Trump says. Like, inevitably, like the farmers can't afford it. What, Trump's going to give them $200 billion for the next 4 years to bail them out? There's just no way. So this feels like an obvious buy the dip across the board, but prices could get cheaper if this is prolonged. I just don't think it's going to last forever. Boeing right here down about 1% after that China news that came out yesterday that China's going to stop buying Boeing aircrafts. S&P still down 1.15 currently right now. Celsius, of course, the hedge of the year, is up 1.5%. While Nvidia's down 7, Celsius is up 2. Why not? Why freaking not? Dude, if anyone bought Celsius earlier this year, you got to give yourself some props. I mean, this thing truly has been one of the best performers, and it's acted as, for some reason, a place of safety, even when tech is falling aggressively. Celsius right here up about 2%. I mean, what do you think about Micron? I was talking about this yesterday on the market close. I don't know why people like Micron. I really don't. Like, I don't get it. The only reason they're having all this demand for memory is because of GPUs and AI computer upgrade cycles. That's it. That's why HBM demand is exploding, and the earnings have been phenomenal. But like, this is just a derivative of the overall semiconductor trade, which is Nvidia, and all of these companies are affected by that, not only narrative and perception, but also Nvidia's actual trajectory. So I don't know why people are obsessed with this one. I really don't get it. I don't see what's so special about it that's warranting people to have a deeper look. Even if the numbers look good, the narrative on this is a narrative tied to Nvidia. So there's no way in hell Micron explodes and Nvidia's down. Like, it's just, if Nvidia's up, it'll be up. If not, it's not. All these AI computers, AI PCs that are going to need a lot more memory, a lot of that still is impacted by the AI revolution, which to me goes back to Nvidia. So yeah, I'm not a buyer here. I don't blame anyone for buying it, but I just don't know what's so exciting about it. Dan Ives on CNBC. Let's go to him. Let's see what he's saying. I think he was on in the morning. We might have that clip as well if he's not on live right now. Yeah, I think we'll get this clip from the morning. It isn't just a derivative on Nvidia. It is a derivative on everything robotic. You think 100 million human robots aren't going to need memory. Yeah, but 100 million human robots are also going to need chips. Like, this is what I don't get. Like, if you think we're going to have 1 billion robots, they're going to be powered by GPUs. They'll also be powered by memory. But what? So then, if that's a wash, then why buy the memory company over the chip company? And the chip company is not a commodity. The memory company is, and the chip company has a lot more pricing power than the memory company. So I still don't see the argument, unless there's something in the numbers I'm missing, for why it's so special to look at Micron over Nvidia. This is what Dan Ives had to say about all the Nvidia news this morning.
Joining us on this breaking news, again, shares of Nvidia down about 5% right now. I want to ask you, why is this stock selling off so hard? We've seen a lot of different numbers come out about the fact that the percentage of revenues tied to China has been reduced over recent quarters. Morningstar outstanding, it's about 10%. So why is the stock hit so hard?
Yeah, Frank, it's really more strategically what this means. I mean, Street's basically going to assume that China is almost a zero for Nvidia. I mean, this is really a blockade that started. And look, we know, I mean, what's the biggest asset we have? There's one chip in the world that's fueling the AI revolution. It's Nvidia. So by them doing this, this is kind of the first shot across the bow in terms of what we're going to see. And obviously, there's going to be a huge ripple effect. But Street basically is going to, at this point, take numbers down by 10%. That's essentially now what's factored in. But look, Frank, we've talked about it. This is part of a trade war, and it's going to happen. It doesn't change, in my view, if you're able to look through the storm. There's a lot of volatility ahead, but this is going to be, in terms of when you're thinking about chess, I mean, it's the king chess player, right, when it comes to NVIDIA chips.
Also, a hit on AMD, also new export controls on their chips as well. How meaningful is it for that stock?
More meaningful for AMD than NVIDIA. So I'd expect AMD to be down more than NVIDIA, just given, a quarter revenue, whatever that comes from China. That's going to be a gut punch for this. And look, market's trying to adjust. These are now the first steps. We're seeing the real economic difference when it comes to when you take China and actually restrict it.
One more part of this story, we got ASML, biggest chip equipment maker in the world. Shares also pulling back on bookings being lower than expected. One of the factors there is tariffs. So the U.S. trade war continues to be a big theme when it comes to all these tech stocks. First, let's just hit on ASML. The fact that tariffs are kind of restricting or lowering their bookings, is that something that you see as a longer-term trend, as just a short-term, maybe one-time shock?
Look, I mean, right now, we're in this game of high-stakes poker, U.S.-China, right? I mean, is it going to be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or longer? So when you look at ASML, this is just the first one. I don't expect that really any tech company is going to give guidance. You're basically playing darts blindfolded. And I think what you're starting to see now, Street's basically baking in across chips, 10% cut across the board. You'll start to look at 26 numbers depending on how negotiations go. But I think that's going to be the way. The next few quarters, it's going to be messy. And that's why we said buckle the seatbelt time. You don't throw in the towel. It doesn't change the thesis long term. But I mean, this is now, we are now heading into like the eye of the storm when it comes to this chip war and tariff war between U.S. and China.
I mean,
and obviously, we're experiencing that right here with all the semiconductors getting hit as badly as they are. This is what the China embassy put out today. In a world full of uncertainties, China remains committed to joining hands, not throwing punches, removing barriers, not erecting walls, promoting connectivity, not pursuing decoupling. So, I mean, you've got China saying, hey, we want to work with you guys. But they're not going to pick up the phone first. And neither is Trump. So it's like someone's got to blink, bro. Someone's got to blink. Webull right here up 25% on the day. This is just stupid, dude. This is really stupid. This is making me feel like we're in a clown market, seeing something like Nvidia down 7%, Webull up 25%. It's just stupid. That's what it is. It's stupid. It is completely stupid. But why not, right? Why not? If people feel like the tech stocks are full of crap, then maybe they're just going to rotate to memes at this point. This is dumb. This is not a healthy market to see something like this happening right now. It's definitely not good for the IPOs. Figma wants to go public. Klarna, StubHub, all these companies want to go public. I don't think they want to go public and have their stocks being traded as meme stocks. By the way, all the insiders have a 6-month lockup as soon as you go public. So even if it bursts over the first 5 days up 3,000% or whatever, they can't sell. So it's not like they're going to be happy to see that because they don't have any liquidity. So this is just a clown market with stocks going up like this. Now, granted, if I bought some Webull at $10, maybe I wouldn't feel like a clown, but I didn't. So it's a clown market. If I was holding some Webull, I would feel like, well, actually, if you look at the financials and you extrapolate the future growth potentials of the brokerage, I can manipulate the argument to make sense of this, but I can't do it because I don't own this name. So no, in all seriousness, this is just stupid. I don't like seeing this. I'm happy if anyone's making money in Webull, but like this Newsmax, I don't like seeing this stuff. This is not healthy. It's not healthy at all. The Q's down 2%. Uber's down a third. Netflix just goes green. Do we want to hear why Josh Brown sold Google for Netflix? I thought it was a hell of an argument. I don't necessarily disagree with his argument. I do think that Google's better in the long term, but yeah, let's listen to a little bit. I'll put a poll and see how many of you agree with him making this swap.
I'm not in the camp that thinks Alphabet's going to lose the AI race, or it's got like this fundamental issue with all of these large language models taking away from the use of search. I think they will be one of the top AI services, but it's never had to compete the way that it does now. And younger generations are jumping literally right into ChatGPT when they want to know something. They're not looking for blue links and sponsored links and ads. They just want the answer. And so like Google's going to have to come up with an answer to that. And I think that's reflected in the multiple that the stock now sells at. I think other people understand that. This is not a unique insight to me. But I think it's going to be a defensive year. And I think, when you look at who is most reliant on advertising revenue amongst large cap tech, it's really Meta and it's Alphabet, and arguably the Meta moat around Instagram is stronger than the Google moat around Google search. So I think it's just that simple. I wanted to do something more defensive. And so what I bought instead of Alphabet in that category is Netflix. You want me to pause here so you can ask the question, or should I keep going?
Yeah, I mean, it was your final trade about a week ago. I guess exactly a week ago Netflix was. So maybe the writing was on the wall that you were looking at this name for a while, which has proven to be resilient relative to many of the other names in that universe. Certainly of the larger cap, but not but not mega cap tech. But why? What made you finally buy that?
So it hit my list of the best stocks in the market a while back. I've been stalking it ever since. I've come to the conclusion that not only is it on the list of best stocks in the market quantitatively, I actually think it's the best stock in the market for this year. That doesn't mean I think it'll go.
That's a hell of a claim. Netflix, the best stock in the market for 2025.
Go up the most. But I am not on the hunt for the hardest hit stocks to try to bottom fish. I'm not on the hunt for falling knives. I'm looking for resilience because I think in a defensive bear market, that's the number one quality of the stocks that by year end will have performed the best. So consider this. From the market top on February 19th, Netflix is down 5.9% going into today. The S&P 500 is down double that, 12%. The NASDAQ's down almost triple that, 15%. It's been a remarkable name in the tape this year. It's only 8% below a 52-week high. The median communication stock is 17% below the 52-week high. RSI is still 58. So in a market where almost everything's got a relative strength right now of like 40s, 50s, nothing special, this stock stands apart from almost everything else. There's a piece in the Journal that I think everyone should read about the discussion taking place at Netflix's annual business review meeting. They're talking about literally doubling revenue by the year 2030, which is only 5 years away. And they're talking about joining the $1 trillion market cap club. Market cap right now is about 400 billion. I think that this is the most defensible technology company, almost to the point where it's a consumer defensive stock. I don't think this is the type of service that anybody cancels. And even if they're thinking about canceling, the lower priced ad supported tier will catch those people. And actually what's interesting is Netflix makes more money from the ad supported tier than they do from a premium tier household. So I love everything about it. I don't think it's necessarily a cheap stock at today's price. Obviously Alphabet's cheaper. I just think it's going to act more defensively and has way more potential upside.
It has, Joe, right? It has acted more defensively.
All right, what do you guys think? What do you think? 68% of you say no, it does not make sense to sell Google for Netflix. Dude, look, so the highest level of his argument, if we want to give the argument a lot of merit, is that in a recession or in a recessionary time, people will spend less on going out on vacations. They will spend more on entertainment at home. And Netflix is the best place to get the entertainment. There's no disagreement on that. But the discounting of Google, Nvidia back below 105, to me is the issue. Now, his main argument is that his kids don't use search anymore. They use GPT or they use some type of AI LLM product. I think that's fine. I I am very curious why he thinks Google is just going to lose that race. And it feels like maybe that's more of a sort of gut feeling that he's got anecdotally, but I don't think Google is just going to lose to the other LLMs out there. In fact, I think 2.5 on Gemini is pretty incredible. And the AI overviews is becoming really strong. And that's going to be incorporated into Gmail, YouTube, Google Sheets, everything that we use on our day-to-day. And to bet against that, given the balance sheet they have, given the buybacks they can do, all that stuff, given Waymo, robotics, I mean, there's other verticals that they're expanding into. Waymo's being, it's going incredibly well with 200,000 paid rides a week. It seems a little bit short-sighted, in my opinion. That's what it feels like. Especially the multiples. So then let's talk about the multiples, right? Netflix is trading at 47 times. Google is trading at 18 times. So Josh's argument is, well, Google's trading at 18 times for a reason. Netflix is trading at 47 times for the consumer defensive argument. That's fair. However, the market could just be heavily discounting something because of whatever fears that they have around Google, but those fears might not be rational. We've seen that many times in the market where the fears are stupid. Maybe they are, and then maybe Netflix outperforms, but I don't want to say it's a horrible argument. I feel like it's a heat of the moment thing for him to say Netflix will be the best stock of 2025 and it will withstand any recession and Google is going down the drain. Seems like it seems like a panic sell more than anything, bro. Like it seems like that's weird because I didn't expect Josh Brown to do that. But when I heard it yesterday, I was like, all right, so I guess he's repositioning for a recession. And even then, I mean, Google has a balance sheet to survive a recession. Yes, advertising budgets will go down and that'll hit Google, but everyone's talking about Netflix ads. Advertising on Netflix will go down as well. It'll go down across the board. So then they're going to have to get premium subscribers. And by the way, a subscriber in India is not the same as a subscriber in America. A subscriber in India pays like $2 a month. In America, we pay 20. So it just getting more subscribers isn't enough for Netflix to win. They have to get subscribers with a high ARPU. And usually the subscribers who have a name that sounds like Apu don't have a high ARPU. So it's very difficult for me to imagine that the subscriber growth in a recession would be so substantial that it can make up for the lack of revenues that the street would be projecting. He got some insider info about something big coming out of Netflix. I don't know. I mean, the only insider information that everyone got was that Wall Street Journal article that said that Netflix wants to be $1 trillion company, which is like, okay, cool. Every company wants to be $1 trillion company, but I don't know if that's a reason to buy it. Chad, that was not a bad joke, bro. That was a good one. It was an overused one. There's a lot of new people on this channel, so I got away with it. But there's probably like 1,000 of you that have heard that joke 15 times. But I haven't done it in a couple months, so needed to deploy the joke again. Speaking of Chad, we got this headline right here. At least we got some good news today. Alex Karp, that guy that like kind of made a lot of us filthy rich. He is part of Time's 100 most influential people of 2025. So there you go. As Palantir, the data analytics giant that works closely with the U.S. Armed Forces and intelligence agencies, has grown in value on the stock market, its chief executive, Alex Karp, has become the embodiment of a new kind of Silicon Valley billionaire, an unashamed techno-nationalist who evangelizes Western power. Meanwhile, business is booming. In the same shareholder letter, Karp announced that Palantir's revenue in 2024's final quarter had increased by 36% over the corresponding year-over-year period in 2023. I think this same list faded Karp last year, if I'm not wrong. So it's nice to see him get the oh no, it wasn't. It was the 100 most important people in AI. And Karp or Elon didn't make the list. This was June of 2024, May of 2024. There was some Bollywood actor from India who made the list over Karp and Elon freaking Musk. 100 most influential people in AI. And like, look, I love my Bollywood movies, but like, what is going on? So yeah, this was the list. 100 most influential people in AI, 2024. No Karp, no Elon. Sam Altman was there. Lisa Su was there. I'm looking at the list. Marquez Brownlee, the freaking YouTuber, was there. Like what? Like, no, not Alex Karp, not the AI that's being used to save Western values across the entire globe. Not AI that's literally transforming the biggest oil companies in the world like BP, Marquez Brownlee. So it's nice to see that they adjusted the list a little bit this year. But yeah, at least we got that good news as well. So no, Sundar did make the list. Sundar made the list, but Elon and Karp did not make the list. Oh, here's a headline from California today. Newsom is suing the government over these tariffs. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but California is, yeah, here it is right here. This is him announcing that they're going to sue the administration.
Today, I announced a lawsuit on behalf of the state of California suing the Trump administration. California is the largest manufacturing state in our union, one of the largest trading partners around the globe. No state will be impacted more than the state of California as it relates to the unilateral authority that's being asserted by the Trump administration to impose the largest tax increase in modern American history. Today, I announced a lawsuit on behalf of the state.
I don't know if that's going to be successful or if that's going to work. I don't know how they're going to play it out, but like internally as a country, we disagree so much about Trump's tariff approach that we are now getting at the point where we're suing each other, which is, I mean, dude, it's a mess right now. Now, again, I think it'll be resolved and hopefully sooner than later, but it's absolutely a mess. Palantir right here down about 2%. Robinhood down almost 5%. S&P down 1%. Costco down about 0.21. Google down 1%. Webull still up 21% on the day. He loves China. You know, there's an argument, though. The one thing I hated about California last year is that when Xi Jinping came to visit, they cleared up the streets like their life was on the line. And they got all the homeless people out of the streets, everything, and they made sure they had a nice red carpet for Xi Jinping to come to San Francisco. And it's just like, it boils my blood that they're willing to do that for a literal dictator who's an adversary with the United States. But they won't clean up the streets in general for the population in San Francisco. And I can say this because I was just at San Francisco and I literally saw someone shooting up some heroin. So it's like, it's just unbelievable that a state with that much money, that many billionaires, allows the type of stuff they allow on the streets. And look, I'm not saying it's not an easy problem, but Newsom's been there for a while and they've got the money to solve it. It's just like they haven't actually put in the effort, it seems like, to figure out how to deal with the situation. And there's a lot of different creative approaches you can have to deal with it. But if you get rid of it for a day for China, I mean, it's sad that they're not doing it for the actual citizens in that country or in that state. What else? Shooting it or smoking it? No, he was shooting it up. Like, dude, I saw people on the street with needles, like syringes. It was wild, bro. I think we were walking through downtown Market Street at like 9:30 at night. We were gonna get dinner, me, Roy, Tanner, and a couple other people, and we were just seeing it. And I never really believed it either. When people said, "Oh, there's all these homeless people on the street," like I never really believed it. And then when I saw it I was like, "Oh wow," it was worse than New York in my opinion. Because in New York, at least in New York, I haven't seen them doing drugs. In New York, they're kind of just on the streets. But in San Francisco, uniquely, the drug use was more prolific here. Yeah, for those of you that are in San Francisco, it's bad. It's not the best situation for this. I don't know, bro, but it's a rough situation right now. But the fact that they're suing the government here just shows you how much infighting there is towards this situation. Nvidia right here, new low of the day, 104.70. Any dip that was bought already at 105, 106 is now underwater with 104.70 on Nvidia as it goes red. Okay, let's see what other headlines do we have right here. I think do we have any more Japan update? We have JPOW speaking at 1:30. No, nothing else from Japan. I don't think the Japan negotiations have even started yet. They're going to be happening later in the day, from my understanding. They might be happening at the same time that JPOW's speaking. So we might get updates from Japan while JPOW's actually talking today, which would be important. When do you buy it? I don't know, dude. I'm not in any rush to buy Nvidia here. Like, what's the rush? Like, realistically, what's the rush? Okay. If it bounces back up to 110, you buy it at 110 versus 104. Like, it's like, I don't blame anyone for buying the dip here, but it's also just like, where's the good news coming from outside of it being priced in, which is fine. But like, where's the good news? Because I don't think there's any world until Q1 or realistically until the end of the middle of Q2, end of Q2, where this reverses, this decision to ban the H20 chip reverses. I'm confident it will be reversed once they get their licenses, but I don't think Trump's going to let it get reversed while they're negotiating with China. And so if there's no progress on China, why would he allow Nvidia to sell their chips into China? That's a big win for China, technically. It's a loss for the United States from a security perspective, even if it's a big win for Nvidia investors. So that good news is out the window. Nvidia just took a 15% hit on earnings for Q1. That's bad news. And so then what's left? What's the catalyst? Outside of just like some technical retracement, maybe some Japan deal, maybe some bessent update that we've got more deals with Korea, like all that stuff could macro pump Nvidia with the whole market. But Nvidia specific, I don't see what's the headline that gets it to kind of reverse from here. If Trump reverses, very quick recovery. Yeah, but I don't think with China, again, this H20 ban is specific to China. I don't see him switching on China as easily. Because from my understanding, it feels like it's negotiating. At least that's what it seems like right now. Even Chris Camillo was saying last night that this headline is iffy. He's like, he doesn't even fully believe that they're doing this for national security. He feels like they're doing it for other reasons, implying it feels like it's a lot more rooted in the concept of negotiating versus like purely national security. I think we have a trial update on Meta. Let me pull over to that. Let's see if we can get some coverage there as well.
The FTC's antitrust trial against Meta. Mark Zuckerberg testifying this hour. Former COO Sheryl Sandberg also expected to take the stand at some point, perhaps today as well. Eamon Javers outside the courthouse, of course, has the latest for us. We also got interesting reporting, I know, as well from the Wall Street Journal about what Zuckerberg tried to do to avoid this trial.
Yeah, that's right, David. Mark Zuckerberg is back in court today, along with the legal teams for both sides. And for his third day of testimony on the mammoth FTC antitrust case against Meta, the early morning maneuvering featured interesting testimony. Lawyers for Apple and Google urging the judge not to allow their confidential information to be disclosed to the public or to Meta. Google argued that Zuckerberg should not be in court to hear certain proprietary information from that company. And yesterday, Zuckerberg spent an entire business day on the stand, sparring politely with FTC lead litigator Daniel Matheson over dozens of internal memos and documents, documenting his thinking at the time his company acquired Instagram for about $1 billion back in 2012 and WhatsApp for $19 billion back in 2014. Now, if Meta loses this case, the FTC could seek to force it to spin off those companies into separate entities. And ironically, one of the emails that came to light yesterday was a 2018 memo that Zuckerberg wrote about antitrust pressure on that company at that time, possibly forcing the company to spin off Instagram, which he noted would not necessarily be a bad thing, he said. Now, meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal, as you say, David, reporting last night that Zuckerberg approached the FTC with a $450 million settlement offer for this case back in March and sounded confident on a call that President Trump would back him up with the FTC. So far, however, Trump has declined to do that. A Meta spokesperson did not deny the settlement offer, but told us we are prepared to win at trial, and an FTC spokesman declined to comment on all of that. Back over to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, the bid ask between them, we were talking earlier, 450 million. They wanted 30 billion. Are we expecting then? Yeah. I know, at any moment things can always change, but it appears this trial is going to continue to potentially fruition, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going on right now. Zuckerberg is talking right now a lot about TikTok, and his lawyer is questioning him now, really making the point that Facebook and Meta have a lot of other competitors out there. And the overhang over all of this is Donald Trump, right? He could intervene at any moment and order the FTC to drop this case or accept a settlement. That hasn't happened so far, and all of Zuckerberg's sort of MAGA makeover efforts earlier this year seemed, if they were designed to get the Trump administration to drop this case, that hasn't happened yet. Will it happen at some point in the next several weeks? You know, we'll wait and see.
The other interesting thing, Eamon, now that we have as part of the evidence a bunch of Zuckerberg emails from back in the day, was this notion that he floated of wiping all friends for users of Facebook in an attempt to re-engage users with the platform. I mean, sort of out of the box thinking, but that's where they were at the time.
Yeah, really interesting. You know, a lot of the developmental thoughts of Zuckerberg as he built this company over the years, this is a real history lesson in how Facebook came to dominate American social media, but also how the rise of TikTok. He's been discussing this morning, you know, real details about how they were a little bit slow to see TikTok coming and the way that TikTok has developed. And also some insights about, you know, just the idea that networking effects are not as powerful anymore because people are communicating via text message and messenger in ways that they didn't just 5 or 6 years ago. So the changes in the industry, you know, he's really giving sort of a master class on that from the stand.
Great help this week, Eamon, helping us understand the importance of this trial. Eamon Javers watching it.
This is why it's hard to buy Meta, dude. There is another overhang on Meta. There's another freaking overhang on Meta. And I don't know how much they're going to have to pay to settle out of this. Wow, Nvidia 104.22, down 7.12%. Where's the S&P? SPY down 1% as well. Nvidia, brand new lows of the day. Okay, I'm afraid to check AMD. Where's AMD? AMD actually not as bad as Nvidia. Nvidia now outperforming Nvidia to the downside. Sorry, Nvidia outperforming AMD to the downside. 104.28 on Nvidia. By the way, guys, we got some breaking Tesla news right here. Not that bullish, but here you go. Tesla California registrations in Q1 down 15.1% from a year ago. Tesla's California EV market share down to 43.9% in Q1 from 55.5% from a year ago. Okay, so California is supposed to be the place that Tesla doesn't lose market share in. That's not good. Either people are not buying as many EVs, which is fair because of it being more expensive or whatever, but California is pretty gracious with the tax credits, so I don't know if that's the reason. Or Tesla right here down 2%. They're buying Rivians and other companies because they don't want to support Elon. I mean, that could be an argument as well. There's a lot of, I mean, California is one of the most liberal states in the country, right? So, I mean, there's an easy extrapolation to make that, you know, the people there don't support Elon and they don't want to continue supporting Elon. And so they're not going to buy Teslas. Again, it's not like really, it's not like as important as delivery news, but we've already seen the registration data from Sweden and Denmark and Spain and Germany being, you know, just horrible. And now it's catching up to the United States. So not the best thing in the world for California. I saw a Tesla in my area with a bumper sticker, anti-Elon Tesla Club. You know, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen a lot of anti-Tesla resentment in Jersey. I really haven't seen it. Intel, by the way, down about 2.7%. Nvidia still down 7%. In Jersey, I've never pulled up to someone on the highway and they like give me the middle finger or whatever, right? I've seen a lot of videos of that, but in Jersey, it's been relatively clean. I haven't even seen a ton of protests in Jersey. There's a lot of Teslas in New Jersey, by the way, like a lot of Teslas. I think it's probably not as much as California, but it's up there in like the top 3 states. I think Jersey, Texas, and California. But yeah, it seems to be more aggressive in other parts of the country versus Jersey. Now, granted, New York is pretty bad as well, but not as much as Jersey. Mitt doesn't see it because he's streaming all day. No, but when I go to charge my car or like anything like that, just generally driving around, like I don't see any posters of people saying screw Elon or something. Like, it hasn't been as bad as Jersey as it is in other places, or maybe just the location I'm at in Jersey. It's not that bad, but get a Cybertruck, you'll get more middle fingers. Yeah, that I believe, bro. People just despise the Cybertruck so much. Like, A, they despise how it looks. B, it's just like a symbol to them of like Elon, and they start feeling the hatred. Again, I love how the Cybertruck looks. I wouldn't mind owning a Cybertruck. I just don't need one because I have a Model Y, and that's fine. But I am shocked of the numbers of how badly that car has sold in the United States since it came out a couple years ago. Like, this was supposed to be the new F-150, and it is not anywhere close to replacing the average truck that Americans want to buy. We got this title right here as well. This headline: Senator Josh Hawley has now introduced a bill to ban Congress from trading stocks. There's a couple politicians like AOC, Josh Hawley. There's a decent chunk of them that really don't want politicians trading stocks. Trump even announced yesterday, or he said in the press conference, that he's looking into it as well. He's not opposed to signing this type of a bill. So maybe sooner than later, we're going to get an update on Nancy not being able to trade anymore. If you were in Canada, you would get a lot more honks if you drive a Tesla. Well, I'll be in Canada at the end of the month. Let me put the meetup form here again in the chat. We had 160 people sign up so far. So if you want to join, this is the link, April 26th. I don't expect everyone who signs up to join because I know people get busy and stuff, but I'm going to try to get a venue that is easy enough for everyone to be there. Why are you shocked? How did the F-150 Lightning spare? I guess I'm shocked because, I don't know, the understanding of Tesla when they released the Cybertruck is that this would be the truck that Americans choose to love. And, you know, realistically, yeah, I guess I shouldn't be shocked because the price point is ridiculous. Like, until they had this recent $11,000 decline, it was like averaging $75,000. It's just a lot to pay for a truck, dude. Especially if it's not as good as the F-150. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know much about the trucking business, but when I read the Forbes article the other day and I saw the actual numbers on the Cybertruck, and I was like, my goodness, this thing, like, and I see a lot of them in Jersey, which is why I think in New Jersey, I've seen at least every time I go out, I see a Cybertruck. Like, it's pretty prevalent in New Jersey. And so I thought it was a little bit more of a selling. They've only sold like 20,000 Cybertrucks in the past couple of years, which is like not a lot of trucks. Nvidia 7 cents away from going below 104. Here we go. It looks like the bottom wants to fall out on Nvidia. Very, very close to getting below these levels. A lot of Teslas in our town in New Jersey. Yeah, in New Jersey, we have a ton of Teslas. Fitch Group says we still expect Federal Reserve to wait until fourth quarter 2025 before cutting rates despite deteriorating U.S. growth outlook. Okay, so Fitch and Moody's probably feels the same. And the reason they feel like that, again, it's very simple. They're pricing in higher inflation because of tariffs. And because they think there's going to be more inflation because of tariffs, they think the Fed's going to not blink first when it comes to cutting. Which is not a crazy thesis to have, but obviously, if we don't cut until the end of the year and we get growth to slow down, we get a recession. It's just that simple. We get a freaking recession. And I don't know if J-Powell wants to have a recession, so maybe he blinks before the tariffs officially go down. But I can't blame some of the banks for thinking that's not going to be the case. Let's get another update on Nvidia right here, as it's now down 7% on the day.
During a high-profile, supposedly $1 million dinner at Mar-a-Lago, and comes also despite Nvidia's announcement just on Monday about plans to invest $500 billion in U.S.-based AI infrastructure. This size, though, $5.5 billion of Nvidia's write-down, really should give us a glimpse into how uncertain NVIDIA is about even getting these licenses, which can really take up to a year to get. The charge will cover H20 inventory and purchase commitments, as well as related reserves. While AMD, though, they were a little bit more forthcoming in their filing, stating they will seek licenses to export to customers in China, but cannot be sure of securing them. Sell-side estimates across the board are coming down, not only for NVIDIA, AMD, I'm seeing price target cuts for Broadcom as well as Marvell, so it's really weighing on the entire sector. But these new licensing requirements are really set to remain for, quote, the indefinite future. While significant, though, I'd like to be a little bit more positive. The impact might be a little contained. Why is that? Well, China accounted for approximately $17 billion in NVIDIA's fiscal 2025 revenue, so that represents roughly 13% of total revenue, which is actually the smallest percentage in over a decade. Sources have also told me just over the last few weeks that Chinese hyperscalers have indeed been stockpiling these H20 chips, so we may not see as big of a negative hit this upcoming quarter. A bigger threat, though, does loom. Potential AI diffusion rules could take effect in May. These would limit NVIDIA's sales to many more countries and customers, same thing for AMD. So this regulatory whiplash highlights the unpredictable nature of tech trade policy under the Trump administration, where even personal appeals at million-dollar dinners don't always offer guarantees.
Yeah, Christina, I was curious.
Nvidia, she's fallen. 103, it just hit 103.8, bounced off that, now at 104. Yeah, it's an ugly day for Nvidia, taking down the S&P, down about 1%. Now, the S&P is kind of holding up. I mean, only down 1% after Nvidia falling almost 8% is like, I'll take that. But obviously a tough day for the semiconductor names. Nvidia puts printing, yeah, I guess. Dude, puts on not just the market, but Nvidia and Apple this year have done very well as a hedge if people did have that hedge on. I think the license on Nvidia will be sped up with the $500 billion US investment. Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, at least that is like one silver lining here, that Nvidia and the Trump administration don't have the worst relationship. Meta right here, new lows of the day, 507.69. Again, that antitrust trial overhang is just tough to deal with. Lyft and Uber still green. Tesla's red. Bitcoin back above 84. That's nice. Robinhood getting hit, down 6%. And again, you know, the reason Robinhood's down is because Nvidia's down. I mean, realistically, if Nvidia goes down, there's a lot of other stocks that fall with it, including the indices. And that means less trading volumes for Robinhood. Again, the volatility is good for HOOD, but the lack of a bull market is bad, because you need bullish sentiment for trading volumes to go up. You're going to get temporary trading volumes increasing and spiking when everyone's selling everything, but it's not like that's going to maintain if people don't start buying, which is why Robinhood will then have worse numbers, and the street will price that in. Now, IBKR, again, I don't think they deserve to fall 10% right here. I still think that doesn't make, because they haven't even given any Q2 guidance, so it's weird that the street's pulling forward a crappy Q2 for them, but I guess that's what they're assuming right now, and maybe that's also why Robin is getting hit. Where's Grab? Is Grab up today? Grab is, all right, a little green, up about 1%, 410 right there on Grab. But the rest of the market's still red. When is the USA meeting with Japan? Probably like right now. Bessent, Trump, and Lutnick should be meeting with Japan either right now or in an hour. But that is definitely happening today. Does Steve not care about this? Dude, Steve texted me last night. What did he say? Yeah, he texted me like a meme from Twitter. he didn't say, dude, and it doesn't even matter if I'm like, hey, did you see Nvidia is going to have a 5.5 billion charge? Because I'm telling you, he genuinely does not care. He does not care. Like he's just unfazed. He doesn't care. So it's not even worth telling. He knows about it. He sees everything. He just doesn't care. Yeah, 7:26 yesterday at night, he sent me a meme. I mean, theoretically, none of us should care, right? If we're long-term bullish, it's just in the, you know, one thing I'm getting annoyed about, everyone's like, oh, you're being super emotional. I'm like, dude, we're reacting to the market. Like it's not about being emotional. Emotions to me don't matter unless you take actions based on the emotions. And the actions that I've been very clear and transparent about for the entire year is that I'm not selling. And if I am, I'll say it. I'm not afraid to say I'm selling. I'm not selling. Like I haven't sold a single share of Nvidia because this was the Mag 7 pick I made for the year, and my conviction is growing deeper and deeper. And it is what it is. You have to deal with it. But it's not bad to become emotional when you're reacting to headlines. Like this is just the nature of trying to figure out what's going on. And yeah, in the moment, you're going to have some emotions that might feel like you're annoyed. But if you take actions on those emotions, I think that's what matters. And if I take actions, I'll let you guys know. But the only real actions I've taken this year is selling hood, some of my hood, to pay taxes. Aside of that, I'm in this market because I just don't believe I'm smart enough to time it. And if I was smart enough, I would have sold the top in February, and I didn't do that. So I don't think it's about being emotional. It's about, do your emotions dictate your actions? And so far it hasn't happened. And I don't think it's going to happen even if we fall another 10%, because it's like, what? I'm going to sell at 4,800 on the S&P, right? And if you want to sell Nvidia right now because you think it's going to 80, it's like, all right, good luck. But I think the mental stress of dealing with the timing of trying to get in and out of it, especially if you actually want to go long on a position, same thing with Palantir, same thing with Hood, it's just not worth it, bro. It's just not worth it. Unless you're day trading it, that's fine. But otherwise, it's not worth it. These aren't normal things happening. It's going to dictate the next plus 5 years. Yeah, and that's also true, right? Like stay long in DCA is the thesis, but you can't blame someone for emotionally reacting to the fact that this is insanity that we're dealing with. And I know, the MAGA faithfuls are justifying it of just like, hey, Trump has a plan, yada. Okay, that's fine. But you cannot blame people for realizing that the greatest bull market that was handed to Trump on a silver freaking platter has been royally effed in the first 4 months of the year. Saying that is not emotional. Saying that is just facts. Trump screwed the bull market. Now, he might recover the bull market towards the end of the year, but when every S&P target goes from 6,700 to 5,000, and you see a massive re-rating of earnings multiples and a freaking trade war with China that doesn't seem like it's ending anytime soon, no, that's like the bull market's done right now. There's a chance to save it, but it depends on progress, updates, deals, etc. But you just can't blame you can't blame people for being emotional when they see that. Because that's currently what's happening right now. And it is what it is. It's happening. Now, look, I don't blame Trump for also trying to fight for free trade and all that stuff. Like that stuff I've been clear about since January. I think that's a good idea. But it is the type of chaos he's created, which again, I'm not the president. So he has a tougher job than me in terms of figuring out how to navigate this. China's a big adversary. I get it. And I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, which is why I'm not selling, to say he's going to figure it out and it's going to be okay. But you got to admit, this is. I don't think anyone, even if you knew he was going to run on the tariff, and no one thought this was going to be how it plays out. Because earnings are good and inflation's coming down. All we needed was to make sure the macro was stable, and the macro is completely unstable. And so as a result, this is the nature of the market that we're living in right now. Amit sounding like Chris right now. See, I think I would just disagree with that. Like, I think, and I respect Chris a lot. Obviously, he is a bit more upset at the Trump administration, and he hates a lot of this volatility. I hate it too. But I do think there's a plan in terms of how they're going to solve this. Also, by the way, Chris is not selling anything either. Like, that's why, Chris starts to, I do agree. Chris can get emotional. He said, that the United States is not going to be as powerful in the next 15 years as it currently is. That I disagree with. But Chris is not selling anything either. So even if he's emotional, the actions that people are taking right now across the board is not selling from what I'm seeing, especially if you're a small retail investor. Maybe the hedge funds are, but retail's been buying the dip, even if they're annoyed that this is happening. And that's the same thing I'm doing. But I just don't think you can blame people for feeling annoyed by this. And the same people that are blaming people for being annoyed, I wonder why they didn't sell, right? Because if they knew this was going to happen, they knew Trump was going to cause all this chaos and pain, then you obviously should have sold. But they didn't, because guess what? They probably didn't know it was going to be this bad. No one did. And now everyone just has to deal with this all playing out. I mean, what would make you sell? I mean, I don't know. I think there would have to be something more dramatic than a stupid trade war that I think is going to be resolved to make me actually say I want to be in cash and not take a chance on the best companies on the planet, especially at my age, right? So it would take something really dramatic for that to play out, and I don't know what it is. I don't know exactly what that stance would be. Chris is right. The USA will not be as powerful in the future, and it's normal. Yeah, I mean, look, Chris's argument, it's not like it lacks merit here. I disagree with the premise that in the next 15 years, the USA will not be the biggest and most powerful country in the world. Now, granted, if we keep isolating every country and have this type of regime, yeah, the whole concept of us having many allies and being looked up to, that could be threatened. I just think I'm just super long America. I believe that we will figure this out regardless of the administration. But it's not like his argument is unwarranted. I wouldn't come to that conclusion. But I can't blame him for feeling upset at what's happening right now. China invading Taiwan, would that make you sell? Yeah, probably. But at that point, you know, as soon as we find out China has invaded Taiwan, or like they are going to, I think it would be too late to sell, because it would just be happening, right? Like it would just be like happen. Like every stock would be falling 20, 30, 40, 50%, like instantaneously. And I think it would be hard to even time the sell once we know that the Taiwan invasion is happening. And at that point, I wonder if it even matters, given how bad it would turn out to be. Yeah, before they invade, it would be too late. So, but that would definitely create us. I mean, like, what's bullish about that? Nothing. It would be tough to see that playing out. Okay, J-Powell speaking at 1:30. That's the official timing. 1:30. He's speaking at a conference. So I'll be live at 1:30 for sure to cover it, but he's going to be speaking at a conference here today. What makes you believe that Trump has a plan and will turn things around? Two things. Number one, I don't think he wants to have a recession as his legacy in his second term. Number two, if he doesn't, he's going to get wiped out in the midterms. So like logically, I'm annoyed that maybe this year we're not going to see any gains, but I also know that inevitably we have to have a switch. Because look, if the Democrats lose the House and the Senate, Trump is not going to get anything done from 2026 to 2028. And so at some level, I think they understand, hey, we've got to do something here. It's just going to create some pain as we try to figure out how to deal with the turbulence. Speaking of turbulence, United Airlines CEO, he is on Bloomberg. Let's see what he has to say about the state of the consumer and how they ultimately gave their guidance and what that means for consumer companies over this Q1.
Company believes is impossible to predict this year with any.
So give investors some outlook on what we think a recession could look like if it happens here at United. So really the goal was to just give investors more information. It's non-traditional. We're the first ones that I ever know of that have done something like this, and so far the feedback has been really positive. And I think investors and others appreciate that we try to give them a more fulsome range as we gave guidance this time.
Scott, can you give us a sense if you were catering more to investor nervousness or whether you were responding to actual weakness that you see in some of the forward bookings by clients?
So I'm guessing you're referring to our capacity changes, and we're going to pull about 4 points of capacity from the second half of this year. That's really just a pure tactical economic decision. We do see weakness, and because we see weakness, it means we're starting to cancel some of the utilization flying. That red-eye flight that was barely profitable in really peak strong times becomes unprofitable when the demand environment weakens a little bit. Customers have more choice to fly at better times a day, and so they do. And so we're really doing tactically is pulling some of that marginal flying, marginal in good times turns negative in bad times. We're just pulling that out of the system.
How much do you see going forward, though, any kind of retrenchment from consumers whatsoever? A lot of people have been talking about how particularly international travel is going to come down with people from overseas not coming to the U.S. Are you seeing that in forward bookings, or has that kind of been more of a narrative than a reality?
It's been more of a narrative than a reality. We saw weakness starting kind of at the end of January. We saw a step down, but it has stabilized in March, and even the first 2 weeks of April, it has stabilized. And the weakest area we see is actually the low-end domestic consumer here in the United States. International has remained quite strong. International, for what it's worth, is 82% U.S. point of sale. So it's much more dependent on the U.S. economy than foreigners coming to the United States. It's also less corporate than it used to be. And because of that, the leisure traveler is still going. The premium leisure is still there. Typically, even in times of economic weakness, the high-end consumer outperforms. And that's what we thought would happen. That's what we've seen so far. We'll keep watching it, of course, but that's certainly what we've seen so far.
How much does this really put you in a position to?
So United saying it's more narrative than reality, which is good. That's really good. If we get a recession, that turns bad. But so far, they're basically admitting the tariffs haven't really caught up to the consumer, at least in the context of travel yet.
Consolidate market share. Right now, we keep seeing that among a lot of the leaders in different industries, that this is time for them to compete on price, to compete on some of the offerings, and frankly, squeeze some of the other weaker players in the market so that you emerge on the other side a lot stronger. Do you see that happening with United right now?
Well, United, we've had a 5-year strategy to win brand loyal customers, and we've done that. So really nothing is changing now. We're not doing anything incremental, anything different. We're continuing the path that we have been on because it's worked. It's led to the best margins in good times. I think that lead is going to expand in tough times, not because we're doing anything special, but just because we'll have more seats to sell available to those customers. And when you're the brand loyal airline, when times get tough and you have more seats to sell, more customers migrate to you. And so we'll wind up selling more seats at lower prices because that's the way our yield management system works. But we'll sell just as many seats, but it's going to make it much harder at the bottom of the customer choice pyramid.
Scott, as you know, there's a lot of tension right now between the United States and China. That's been expressed in several rounds of tariffs from either side. We hope they can come to the table and have some talks, but so far, not great. For the maintenance of your planes, sir, and the exposure that you have to China, to Hong Kong, how are you managing that situation at the moment?
So at United, we have more of our heavy maintenance work done here in the United States than any airline in the country. We've been growing here in the U.S. In fact, over a 3-year period, we're going to hire about 5,000 maintenance technicians here in the United States, building huge new facilities in Houston and in Orlando. And most of our work is done in the free trade zone outside of Hong Kong, the work that is done in China. So we're monitoring it day by day, but we have a high percentage here in the United States, more than anyone else, and feel good about our setup.
Scott, some CEOs have been quite outspoken about what they'd like to see from the administration on policy. Are you willing to do that? Is there a reason why maybe you'd be a little bit more hesitant to weigh in?
Well, I've spent a lot of time in D.C. This year, as I always do, but I've mostly been focused on listening instead of talking. And so I wanted to understand where the administration was coming from, what their goals were, how they were trying to get there. And I actually by the end of March, felt like I had a pretty good understanding of that. And if you have that kind of understanding and you can put everything that's happening into context, it makes it a lot easier to manage the business, to not make panicky decisions. And what I think is happening here is, we're nowhere near the end game yet. These are still the opening moves of the chess game. And I think I and most people that I talk to, or things have slowed down, but we're all in a kind of a take a breath mode. And let's wait till we get to whatever the new normal is going to be before we start making big long-term decisions.
We've all got to take a deep.
I like what he had to say. I mean, if I was a United investor, it would definitely make me feel more at ease. But obviously, the rest of the market right now is the issue. Webull is now up 10%. It was up 20%. Nvidia trying to recover a little bit. Instead of being down 7.5, it's now down 6. Got some green candles across the entire market, but overall still red for the day. Palantir down now almost 4%, and Robinhood right here down 5.6%. Did we get news? I don't see any news. Let me see if I can check S&P. There's your green candle right there. I don't think we got anything. It's 11:30. We have a headline from Russia. Russia has plans to explore deep space, both the moon and Mars. Is that what's helping the S&P? What? No, there has to be something else. The Qs as well. They're getting some green. What is this? What's going on? What's going on? This is like a puzzle, right? You have to try to find the pieces of this. Jerome Powell's not live. He's not live. 1:30. So in about 2 hours, he'll be live, but not right now. No, I don't see any headlines, dude. I don't see anything. This could just be technical right now. Oh, maybe that's it. U.S. Atlanta Fed GDP now. Yeah. Okay, cool. This is good. Yeah, I think this is it, guys. I think this is it. So here we go. Atlanta Fed. They had negative almost 4% GDP growth in Q1. Now it's negative. Wait, wow, this is really good. Hold on. Now it's just negative 0.1%. Wait, no. I'm reading it wrong. Negative 2.2. 2.2, negative 2.2. Okay, so it went from 3.8 to 2.2. 3.8 to 2.2. Which is good. That means there's a little bit more of a projection here that growth will be strong. Again, the reason this number wasn't that serious, we covered it a couple weeks ago when it came out, was because they weren't factoring in import data, or they were over leveraging against the import data that was obviously front running the tariffs from Q4. But when you take that out and adjust it, it's a lot better. The alternative model forecast, which adjusts for imports and exports of gold, is described here as negative 0.1%, which gives you an overall negative 2.2%, which is a lot lower, or technically a lot higher than the negative 3.8%. Okay, cool. Good. I don't know if that's enough to keep up the pump throughout the entire day. That's not bad. Venture Global's up 8%. This one's moving. I don't know the headline there, but that's green. Nvidia still red, not really recovering. Had a small green candle, but then went red. S&P a little bit more green, but still red on the day. And the Q is still down about 1.2 right now. Okay, cool. So Atlanta Fed saying, hey, maybe growth is not going to be that bad. Now, the thing is, growth is still going to be negative for Q1 based on the studies that I've seen across the board, not just Atlanta Fed. So we will enter into our first quarter of negative GDP growth. It might be like 2022, where it's technically negative, but it's not really recessionary unless we get job growth going down, which we are not seeing yet. Market's pumping. We're up 0.1%. Oh my gosh. That's all we need. We need 0.1 to feel bullish. Is Webull down on this? Webull, it was up 20%. Yeah, it's tanking. All right, people are selling off Webull. It's so funny. We get good economic news, people sell off the meme stock and they go back to the regular stocks. But you get bad economic news when theoretically you should be selling off the most speculative thing during bad economic news. Nope, people pile in to a Webull when it gets that bad. It's a very interesting state of markets. Morning from sunny Jamaica. Good morning to you from Jamaica. We might as well, everyone can put in the chat where they're watching from right now. Across the world, we are bleeding red, which is nice, but at least it's sunny in Jamaica. Dude, it was cold in New Jersey today. Like in the morning, I went for a little bit of a walk. It was like actually cold. And it was amazing weather yesterday. Yesterday I was sweating when I was walking outside. Today I was actually freezing at like 7 a.m. So the weather is definitely going back and forth, just like stocks, right? Green, red, green, red. We are in the midst of super cold or super hot. Like it was almost 70 degrees yesterday in Jersey. It was incredible. Austin from Tampa. We got Detroit. We got Barcelona. We got Kirk from Vienna. Jose from Florida. Andy from California. We got some Sweden in the house. Stockholm. We got Compton, California. I love it. Scotland. It's cold in Gutenberg, I would imagine. Belgium. I love when you guys say North Korea. Like I'm pretty sure they banned YouTube in North Korea. So I don't know what VPN you're using there, but I would imagine North Korea is probably not watching this right now. We got Belgium, Oklahoma, Kruno from Chicago, Alex from Sweden, Joseph from Brooklyn, Buffalo, Bulgaria. We got a lot of Bulgarias here. Germany, Norway, Oklahoma. Don says Hong Kong, but we can't send anything over. Yeah, that was a headline. Hong Kong is not sending over packages anymore. I don't think we covered this yesterday, but Hong Kong is stopping postal services to the U.S. as the city follows Beijing and hitting back at Trump in a trade war. So if you live in Hong Kong, unfortunately, you can't send anything to the United States. Detroit, Sweden, Portugal, Greece, Hawaii. I love it. Mexico. Got some more Hong Kongs. Toronto. I'll be there soon. Tokyo, Japan. Kim Jong banned everything except me. Well, that was nice by Kim Jong-un. We got Texas, South Korea, Turkey, morning from Italy, Montreal, Utah, Laguna Beach, Oklahoma. We're all losing money across the world together. It's amazing. It's a fun time. It's a fun time. Where is the S&P? Nah, dude, that pump is fading, bro. It's a small pump because of the Atlanta Fed, and it's fading right here. Nvidia back below 105. Yeah, that was nothing, bro. That was a baby pump. That was just like a little bit of hopium. And then they just took it away. Losing money together. That's how we do it. Amit, when are you coming to London? Most likely in June. Most likely in June. London and France in June. I don't think we're going to be doing Germany, but yeah, most likely the UK and France in June. Morning from the courtroom at the Meta trial. Dude, I want to see Zuck's testimony. I wonder when that's happening. I don't even know if I don't know if they're allowing cameras though and letting us see it. It might be something closed. I just remember when he said, "Senator, we sell ads" in 2018. It was the craziest shit ever, bro. Do you guys remember that? Like, this is when I realized, oh, the country is being run by people that literally have no idea what's happening. This was back in 2018.
I remember well your first visit to Capitol Hill back in 2010. You spoke to the Senate Republican High-Tech Task Force, which I chair. You said back then that Facebook would always be free. Is that still your objective?
Senator, yes. There will always be a version of Facebook that is free. It is our mission to try to help connect everyone around the world and to bring the world closer together. In order to do that, we believe that we need to offer a service that everyone can afford, and we're committed to doing that.
Well, if so, how do you sustain a business model in which users don't pay for your service?
Senator, we run ads.
I see. That's great.
Hey, NBC.
What's like, it's like, hey, we run ads, bro. Like, that's how we make money. Like, the fact that our senators don't know how one of the biggest tech companies on the planet makes money, which is not asking them to know their free cash flow or their price to earnings. It's just like, hey, the company that's affecting billions of people, including pretty much the entire United States, we should probably know how they monetize. No, we got senators that it's just, it's unbelievable. And I don't know, maybe we need more term limits because this is ridiculous. But, and now they want money. Like, they don't know that Facebook runs ads, but they want Facebook to be prosecuted as an illegal monopoly for buying Instagram, which makes money off selling ads. Like, it's just a joke to me. It is an absolute joke. And Facebook's going to eventually pay a parking ticket to get out of this. But the question is, how big is the parking ticket? Because I don't think this trial actually breaks this up. Yeah, he had the Kawhi Leonard smile after. Like, it was the most awkward smile. He was just like, dude, we sell it. Now, granted, Zuck's image has fundamentally changed since then. Right now, he has a gold chain. He has curly hair. Back then, he legitimately looked like a robot. So whoever did his PR and his branding, that has changed. But still, it's remarkable that this is the state of senators in the United States. Did you see Zuck on Colin and Samir? Yeah, I saw that, and that was an awkward podcast too, bro. Did you guys get that vibe from that podcast? Like, Zuck's was either it was the problem with the hosts, and Colin and Samir are great podcast hosts, so I don't know if it's their fault, or it was Zuck's, but it was really awkward. And then Mr. Beast showed up at the end, and all four of them having a conversation. Like, it was just very awkward. I don't know if Zucks was having a weird day or something, but it wasn't the relaxed Zucks that I've seen in a lot of interviews recently where he's like super chill. He can make some jokes. Like, you know, when someone makes a joke and you do like a laugh just to laugh with it, it's like I remember Colin and Samir made a joke and Zucks had a straight face, no laugh. And it was just like, you know, and then they transitioned to the next question, but it was such a weird interview. So I don't know, maybe he's getting more robotic, but yeah, this antitrust trial obviously is going to be an issue. Someone said I turned it off. Yeah, I was listening to this coming back from the Robinhood Gold event. I was at the airport and I was listening to it. I was like, this is so awkward. Like, just a weird interview. Yeah, he turned back into Lizard Man. He turned back into Lizard Man. Will you buy Meta after the parking ticket? Yeah, I mean, look, if they have to pay like a $3 billion parking ticket and they tank, yes, I would. Because at least the trial is done. You get more clarity and you move forward. Now, granted, that's my ideal scenario. It usually doesn't turn out like that. Meta could pump back up to 550 after they pay the $3 billion instead of tanking. So, because it might just all be priced in. So I wouldn't expect it to go below 500 even if I wanted to, because you just never know how it ends up playing out. As Llama got better, the cooler Zuck got. Just saying, I would agree with that. I wouldn't disagree. Tanner, you want to hop on for like 5 minutes and give your Nvidia take? I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate it if you want to pop on. I can send you the link on Twitter. We can end it out with Tanner for the day, so you can tell us if you're free what you think about this Nvidia take. I was listening to Tanner last night. He's pretty upset about this Nvidia thing, and I think he has a good argument. His argument is that China is going to be powerful regardless. So, yeah, Tanner, if you want to hop on for a couple minutes, you can. We can talk about it. What about the whistleblower heating against Meta? Yeah, so I saw some headlines about the whistleblower. I don't know, bro. The real whistleblower headline was a couple years ago. What was that lady's name? Frances something? She's the one who really blew the whistle on Meta. Frances Hogan or something. But nothing happened after that, right? Like, nothing really happened. Basically, her argument was, hey, Facebook is like not caring about safety. They're caring about advertising, which it was a legitimate claim and she had a lot of evidence. But like, nothing really happened because of that. So I don't know if anything is going to happen again, unless the whistleblower's claims are so bad that the FTC is like, we don't even want a settlement. We just want to break you up. Which, who knows? Maybe that does happen. Robinhood Weekly is not ending. Roy was sick. So tomorrow, Thursday, we'll be doing our episode. But Roy was sick on Monday. That's why we weren't able to do it. All right, let's bring on one of our NVIDIA experts here on the channel. Tanner, good morning.
NVIDIA expert. That's me. No. Robinhood Weekly is not ending. We did say on the Bootleg Weekly the other day that we might have to change the name.
Oh, you told them already?
Yeah.
I might as well tell it. They reached out to us. They said, hey, you can't just use Robinhood in the title. So their legal team was like, hey, we love the show, but you can't use the name in the title. So we're thinking of a new name, but that's not the reason we didn't do the podcast on Monday. It was Roy was actually sick. So that's why.
Yeah. We're going to be changing the name of the SoFi Weekly as like, just, I don't know. Maybe it's a big thing. I heard from one of our lawyer friends that potentially this could have came about from like a sell side analyst, ended up reaching out to regulators and wondering why we're talking about the things that we're talking about. Okay. So who knows?
I'm not changing the week of I'm not changing Palantir Weekly. So we're keeping until Palantir reaches out, we're keeping the name.
Okay. So in terms of Nvidia, yeah, I was not happy to see this. I'm pretty on the other side of this. I think that we should be opening up more of the Hopper platform, offering them better chips. I know that people have some strong opinions of this, and I actually think that your takes, man, are really balanced and really great opinions. So yeah, where do I start? Last time that we spoke, I didn't even really bring up the $500 billion US investment. I just think like that is what they should be focused on. bring more chips to the United States, bring really high quality jobs, and make China reliant on purchasing chips from US. Okay. I think that any business that is looking to try to solve problems that are already solved, they will not heavily invest in doing so. But if you don't have another option, and essentially this is the digital nuclear bomb, this is the most important technology of our future, that China's not going to give up on this fight. They are going to heavily invest, and it won't just be company profits, it will be government stimulated profits that will go towards trying to further advancements in semiconductors. So, people say, oh, well, if they wanted to do that, they would have already done it. Well, this has not been a big problem over the last couple of years. Look at the efforts that they have tried to catch up on. Look at BYD. Everyone's acting like China has like dumb people over there. No, they make great companies and great software it definitely helps that it could be potentially government funded. So I think that this is the wrong way to go. I think that America should solidify itself as being the salesman of semiconductors, and this is what a trade war can get into. I think it's dumb.
Okay, so
heavily biased.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw a take this morning that I think you would agree with as well. Dylan Patel, who runs Semi Analysis, he said Huawei is going to catch up if we ban the H20, which means that a Chinese tech company will just gain more power. Do you kind of agree that if someone's going to profit, it might as well be Nvidia?
That's literally, yes, 100%. And literally Huawei was the company that I'm worried about. So I agree with this 100%. To think that they're not going to catch up, or there was some comments by like DDI saying, hey, you know what? I thought that their technology was the best. It's like, okay, but there's a lot of companies that I think are the best at certain periods of time. Tesla, for example, that if you sit on your hands, that won't always be the case. You want to put Nvidia in first place and keep them in first place, have all the money going to them. Okay. Lowering their sales or putting more hampers on bandwidth restrictions or something like this, or charging them external amounts, is only going to make their future profits go towards fulfilling these license requirements rather than going towards the best capital in the world, more infrastructure in the United States, whatever they need to do to continue to put out the best chips possible. You want to win in artificial intelligence and by some degree have some sort of advantage where they don't get the best chips. That's fine. Like, okay, we have Blackwell, offer them Hopper. That's fine. Continuing to push this back. I mean, this is short-term thinking, and the long-term consequences are going to bite America in the ass. And I don't like that.
I mean, it's down 7%. Do you buy the dip on this, or do you need more clarity on this China stuff?
No, I mean, I'm still going to buy Nvidia. So, yeah, no, I would buy it, but could it go much lower? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, their biggest customers are in the United States. Nvidia sells every chip that it's ever made and more. So, they're like if you look at Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, if you were to read their last quarters, they said they were all supply constrained.
Yeah.
So if this just means that Nvidia starts to make more of the chips that they know will be sold, fine. But that's not great long-term thinking. Overall, I still think that this company is at like a 0.5 peg. But potentially, I think that these regulations will change. I think that this is like not good.
Do you think?
Go ahead.
Do you think Nvidia is being used as a pawn in the negotiations?
1,000%.
Okay.
1,000%. But it sucks being it sucks being there. And they are being used as a pawn. They are like, the way that the government is looking at this is that Nvidia is an arms dealer. And a little bit they are. But that, like, What do you want? Do you want Huawei to catch up and then for a really, really great chip to be designed elsewhere where you have zero control over? Nope. I don't. Like, a bunch of people, you said there are these extremist types that everyone thinks that every decision that's being made is a plan. Guys, this is a bad plan. This is a short-term thinking. Like, Huawei will catch up. That's silly to think otherwise. They always have. You know, we get every single one of these chips from Taiwan. Who's closer to Taiwan? Like,
yeah,
China has been threatening for years to invade Taiwan. And now you're saying, oh, actually, all the chips that are coming out of Taiwan, we're not going to send any of those to you. What are we doing?
Yeah, dude, when you frame it like that, it's a hell of a point, right? It's like, if anything, this gives them a higher incentive either to get their own tech companies to catch up with Nvidia, and the government will give them whatever resources needed, or to go nuclear and invade. I don't think that's going to happen, but it definitely is playing with a little bit of fire here.
Yeah. I made comments yesterday about an actual hot war. I don't think that that's what is going to come of this. I'm a pretty optimistic person, but keep doing stuff like this for no reason. The H20 was designed to skirt around these rules. And it's not just NVIDIA, by the way. Some people say, oh, this is your... I was just about to flash his number, but Stephen Fiorillo's calling me right now.
No, put him on the phone. This is perfect. This is great.
Stephen, you're on the Mitt show.
We can't hear him. There's no speaker.
You're on the Ned and Apu show. We're doing an investing show right now. How you doing?
Okay, what I was calling you for is something that can't be on air, so I'll talk to
you. Okay. Oh, geez. All right, I'll talk to him later.
Dude, imagine he said, imagine he's going to tell you he sold all of his SoFi to buy the dip on Nvidia. That would probably...
Who knows?
Okay, so well, how do you respond to this question right here of why would we want to give them good chips to make China stronger?
It's not to make them stronger. It's like trade's going to happen. They are going to get artificial intelligence. Let's not act like they don't. So why trade with them at all to make them quote unquote stronger? They like the reason how DeepSeek was designed was because they didn't have the chips that we had. So they had to design it in a way that they could, potentially compete without having the best chips possible. But there would never have been that type of thinking if they just had Hopper and Blackwell. And so, and potentially they already did regardless, but it's not about making them stronger in a way like, we're not sending them nuclear bombs here. They still have to, we can still put the Hopper platform their way and then keep Blackwell to ourselves. But it's not like we can't advance technology. Like we're going forward. They're going to go forward as well. We want to make sure that the suppliers of those things are here on home turf. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think you're being super bearish about this. You're just saying, hey, I don't agree with the policy, but inevitably this will get resolved. It's going to be a big hit for Q1 and we have to deal with it now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm still going to be a big buyer of Nvidia. Policies change. The companies and the technology continue to improve. So, I don't like to think about macro too much over the long periods of time. These things are like, Trump is making massive swings in policy change right now.
Yeah.
Massive. On, off, on, off, on, off. I'm not about to sell, the largest position in my portfolio that I've held for years because of a small change like this. It's just, in my opinion, just the wrong direction, and it's not fun to see, but we continue onward.
Yep, I agree. We will get through this. I think it's being used as a pawn in negotiations, and eventually, hopefully, we have some meaningful negotiations and we move
People
forward.
are saying China will just steal the IP and make the chips themselves. They have access to these chips. Like, you don't think that they can go to one of these companies and say, hey, you know what? This is why everyone was questioning the Singapore revenue climbs. Like, they was all going to China. They are getting their hands on these chips. They're just making them harder for pointless reasons. And so if you're talking about stealing IP and replicating these chips, they are already doing it. That's over. I don't know, man.
This Canadian knows nothing. Chips will control almost everything.
Yep. Chips will control everything in the future. So what, do you want China to manufacture their own?
Yeah. Look,
That's
it's
what's gonna
annoying for
happen here.
NVIDIA, but
What?
yeah, I was saying it's annoying for NVIDIA, but at the end of the day, it's not like we can absolutely stop China from doing anything. Like, yeah, maybe we don't have to sell them Blackwell, but it's not like DeepSeek came from China, right? Like, that happened. That was an innovation in China. So the idea that they're not going to innovate doesn't make a lot of sense, but we don't also have to sell them the best chip. And the H20 is not the best chip.
It is funny, though. There's a certain type of person that, like, Trump can do no wrong.
Oh, of course. I mean,
and like, I'm not even an anti-Trump guy or anything like this. Like, that's the funny thing. But the number one thing that they always say to discredit what I have to say is that I'm Canadian. Like,
well,
all right.
Yeah, I mean, when you go ad hom in any argument, it's usually because you don't have a good argument. And like, look, I think we're pretty balanced on this channel when it comes to covering Trump. Some people think I'm super MAGA. Some people think I'm super liberal. But if you cannot critique someone, you are in a cult. And you've critiqued SoFi many times. I've critiqued Palantir many times. We both love those companies. We both critiqued Robinhood many times.
Yep.
Like, so the idea that you can't critique, hey, the implementation of this is kind of chaotic, et cetera, even with the caveat of, I think it'll be okay, is absurd. At that point, you're just not allowed to talk about what the administration is doing without saying anything positive, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there is a lot of positives, and this is a negative, and that's it. I could be wrong, but look at find me a guy in the semiconductor field that doesn't think that Huawei could catch up, or China in general.
And
they're
Dylan
all
Patel,
saying this.
Dylan Patel's a smart guy. If anyone hasn't watched the Lex Friedman podcast that he did a couple months ago, they did 4 hours and on like what is going on with the AI revolution. That podcast may be even more bullish for NVIDIA. So if he's saying this policy is kind of stupid, like, you kind of default to some of the people that have a much better understanding of this than the U.S. government.
Yeah. All right, man.
Cool. Tanner, yeah, I'm going to end it there. Tanner's YouTube right here. Make sure to check him out and subscribe if you're not. Tanner, appreciate it. We will talk to you later.
Thanks, guys.
Later. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. Word of the day. Let's do that. And then I'll be back in about 90 minutes to stream JPOW. So I'll be back pretty soon. And we'll see what JPOW says. That JPOW stream probably is going to go into the market close, to be honest. So we'll see. It might end up just being a full market close stream. So we'll see when we get into the meeting. Word of the day is isocracy.
Isocracy.
Okay, of course. That one I butchered. Isocracy. A government in which all individuals have equal political power. The student council functioned as an isocracy, giving each member an equal vote. It remains uncertain whether a true isocracy can function in a complex society. I so sexy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. A government in which all individuals have equal political power. I don't know if the United States is an isocracy, but that's the word of the day. 1:30. I'll be back. 90 minutes. We'll do JPOW. We'll get it set up. Everyone can go get some lunch, take a little bit of a break. And we'll be back in 90 minutes to see if JPOW can maybe get us to go green, or if he says what I think he's going to say, which is that tariffs are inflationary and that it's going to be hard for them to justify cutting if they think this administration is going to keep having these tariff policies. That's what I think he's going to say, but we'll find out later today. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll be back in about 90 minutes. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.